He'd been wondering about it the whole time, thinking that Lily had never been this forward in her entire life. So that's what this was all about. This little routine was usually his move, the one he used to tease her until she couldn't even pretend to be stubborn anymore. And now she was using it on him, turning the tables completely. Then, just when he was at his breaking point, she drops the bomb. It was that time of the month. That time of the month. How could something be so infuriating? Lying on her side, Lily saw his expression and couldn't help but let out another soft giggle. I'm not being bad. I just wanted to kiss you. It has to be Erin. She's the one who's corrupted you. Lucas declared with righteous indignation. After all, Erin was the only bad influence in Lily's circle. It couldn't possibly be him, a perfect gentleman, who had taught her these tricks, right? The girl let out a playful huff, neither confirming nor denying it. So, are you done staring? I'm gonna go change. She'd only worn this outfit for Emma's high school finals to bring her good luck. After this, she'd rather die than wear it out in public again. Go, go, Lucas grumbled, waving a hand dismissively. Looking at her now was just pure self-torture. He suddenly had no idea how he'd managed to restrain himself for the past year. Maybe this was what they meant when they said it's easy to go from having nothing to having everything, but impossible to go back. Lily scampered out of the room like a little fawn and quickly returned in her pajamas, settling contentedly into his arms. If you really can't sleep, I can help you, she offered, her voice trembling slightly when she saw he was still awake. Nope. Why not? Lily found it strange. When had this big bad wolf ever said no? Lucas snorted. Your period has to end sometime, doesn't it? The girl froze. In her excitement for a little revenge, she hadn't considered the fact that Lucas held a grudge. Is it too late to apologize now? Lucas just smiled at her. Good night. All passion, no skill, huh? I'll show you. The next morning, the sky was as dark as dusk. Lucas was woken by the patter of rain against the window. Rubbing his eyes, he walked over and watched the dense curtain of water outside. The rain was heavy, a loud, rushing sound, and droplets hit the glass before sliding down in thin streams. Feeling the chill seeping through the window frame, Lucas stretched, yawned, and headed back to bed, planning to curl up with Lily for a little longer. The two of them, all alone. It was perfect. Even better if the rain meant he didn't have to go for his morning run. Running every single day until he was drenched in sweat felt less like exercise and more like a punishment. Hey, Lillipad, how about we skip the run today? He stopped mid-sentence, realizing he was the only one in bed. The lingerie Lily had changed out of last night was lying carelessly on the side of the bed, but she was gone. Huh, where did my giant-sized girlfriend go? Lucas yawned and walked into the living room, but there was no sign of her. Only Dottie, the cat, was perched on a coffee table, staring motionlessly out the window with a look of profound contemplation. Dottie was a cat who knew how to enjoy life. He scooped her up, gave her a few absent-minded scratches, and quickly grabbed his phone to message Lily. Lucas, where are you? Confused Travolta. Jiff. Lily, we were out of groceries, so I went to buy some. Lucas, it's the crack of dawn and it's pouring. You went out for groceries? Lily, it's almost noon. I know you like sleeping in on rainy days, so I didn't want to wake you. Lucas blinked, checking the time. Sure enough, it was 10:50 a.m. Lily, is there anything you want to eat? I can make it for you when I get back. Lucas, I just want you. Just come back soon. A moment passed. Why aren't you saying anything? He texted again. This time Lily replied almost instantly. I got excited and dropped the grocery bag. What a dork. Her defenses were as sturdy as paper. Lucas let out a triumphant chuckle, placed the thoroughly scratched Dottie back on the floor, and picked up his laptop. A rainy day was perfect for sipping tea, listening to the downpour, and engaging in a sophisticated activity like chess. Teamfight tactics launching. Dottie, who had been unceremoniously dumped, stared at him with wide, betrayed eyes. So, love can just disappear, is that it? Before he could even finish one game, Lily was back. You should have called me to help you carry things up, Lucas said, heading toward the entryway as he heard the door open. It wasn't much. Lily left her umbrella outside to dry, before quietly closing the door. She was wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans today, looking pure and sharp, exactly as she had the first time he'd met her last year. On closer inspection, it was the exact same outfit. This goofball really would wear her clothes until they fell apart. The graphic on the shirt was already starting to fade. Lucas was about to tease her about it when he noticed the bouquet of flowers in her other hand. 11 champagne roses, glistening with raindrops that made them look even more fresh and tender. As he was taking all in, Lily set the large grocery bag on the floor, held the bouquet with both hands, and walked up to him. Biting her lip, She shyly held the flowers out to him. For me? Lily's gaze darted away as she nodded, embarrassed. After a moment of silence, she explained in a small voice, I saw a lady selling them on the side of the road, and I suddenly remembered that we've been together for so long, but I've never given you flowers. And since it was raining, she was closing up shop and gave me a discount. They were a really good deal, she added, as if that was the important part. Lucas tugged at the fabric of her t-shirt. No matter how big the discount, you could have bought yourself a new shirt. This one is fading. Lily seemed not to hear him. No one's ever given you flowers before, right? She asked, her voice soft. Her hair was damp from the rain, clinging to her temples, and a single raindrop slid from her cheek down the elegant curve of her neck. He guessed she'd been so focused on protecting the flowers with the umbrella that she'd forgotten about herself. Lucas paused, then answered quietly, no, never. Back when he took his SATs, he had specifically told Emily not to buy him flowers like the other parents did. He found it embarrassing, and since then, he truly had never received flowers from anyone. Not from his parents, not from his friends, and certainly not from a girl. Today was the first time. Hearing this, Lily broke into a sweet smile. She took his hand, placed the bouquet in it, and said gently, well, now you have. Thank goodness. Thank goodness I didn't hesitate. A wave of relief washed over her. If she hadn't bought them, Lucas would still have never received flowers from anyone. And who knew when the next chance would come? Kiss me, Lucas said. No, my face is all wet. Lucas ignored her protest, gently lifting her chin and lowering his head. Her soft lips were cool at first, gradually warming under his. After a long moment, the rain outside softened to a gentle drizzle, creating a cozy atmosphere inside the apartment. Lucas placed the flowers on the coffee table, admiring them. I'll go ask Mrs. Gable for a vase later to put these in water. He'd never been a fan of flowers before, but now, the more he looked at them, the more beautiful they seemed. Lily emerged from the bathroom, hair towel-dried, a hair tie held between her teeth. She pulled her hair into a ponytail, ready to start cooking. You'd better cherish them. Who knows when I'll get you more. It's more practical to buy you a few pounds of ribs. At least that's good for you. Lucas nodded, grabbing his DSLR camera and trying to find the perfect angle to photograph the bouquet. Dottie trotted over curiously, sniffing the roses before opening her mouth to take a bite. Lucas quickly pushed her away. That silly cat was something else. After lunch, the sky cleared. Lily painted for half an hour before heading out. Lucas stayed home, organizing market research documents. Just as he finished, he got a notification that the ring had arrived. He grabbed a decent-looking outfit from his closet and walked out the door. He'd picked the ring out at a jewelry store in the mall. From the beginning, he had no intention of being like Jason, who had spent a fortune on a custom-ordered ring from overseas. He knew Lily would feel awkward about the price and wouldn't be truly happy. The fee Jason had paid that so-called jewelry designer could have probably bought a nice diamond ring on its own. There was no need to buy the most expensive one. All that mattered was making his goofball happy. Perhaps because the heavy rain had just stopped, the mall wasn't very crowded. The tile floors were a bit muddy, and cleaning staff diligently pushed mops around. Lucas walked quickly, a grim look on his face. He thought the downpour would save him a car wash, but on the way over, some idiot had sped through a puddle, splashing his car with mud. Though he had chased the guy down and returned the favor. As he neared the jewelry store, he caught a glimpse of a girl with a stunning figure out of the corner of his eye. Exactly his type. He didn't stare, though. He had a girlfriend at home whose figure was illegally good. He was completely devoted to his wife. But after taking a couple more steps, something fell off. He slowly backed up, like a video playing in reverse. Why did that figure in that outfit look so familiar? The girl was sitting at a small table outside a grilled fish restaurant, the kind set up for waiting customers. He focused his gaze. She wore a baseball cap pulled down low and a face mask, making her features impossible to see. A white t-shirt, dark jeans, and her slender legs stretched out under the table, incredibly eye-catching. Everything about her was just so familiar. He crept a little closer. Of course, that was his girlfriend. After all this time, how could he not recognize his own girlfriend? The girl was looking everywhere but at him. Then, as if by accident, her eyes met his for a split second before she quickly looked away. Lucas could have sworn she flinched. For her reaction, she must have seen him a while ago and was just pretending not to. A grin spread across Lucas's face. He casually walked over and sat down right next to her. He didn't say a word, just crossed his legs and looked wherever she looked. Silly dork. Daring to hide from your own boyfriend. Go ahead, pretend. Let's see how long you can keep this up. Lily felt her heart drop when Lucas sat down beside her. She wanted to die. She should have just run into the restaurant the moment she saw him. Ugh, But then someone would have brought her water, and it would have been so embarrassing to leave without ordering anything. She remembered from her part-time job at the barbecue place. The boss always said to bring tea and menus immediately. A glass of water costs nothing, but anyone with a bit of pride wouldn't just walk out. She knew he had recognized her, but she refused to believe it. How could they be so unlucky? She was just here to pick up a diamond ring. She prayed over and over that he wouldn't recognize her, her head sinking lower and lower. The two of them sat in silence, and soon, her face was burning red. Just last night, they were shamelessly cuddling, and this afternoon he had her pinned on the sofa, kissing her for ages. And now she was pretending not to know him. It felt so weird. Please just go away. I'm begging you. There were so many empty tables around. Was it polite for a strange man to just sit right next to a girl who was by herself? Pervert. Weren't you afraid your girlfriend would get mad? Weren't you afraid I'd call the police? Lily had fully immersed herself in the role of a stranger. You think you can do whatever you want just because you're handsome? Lucas stopped watching the passers-by and propped his arm on the table, resting his chin on his hand as he stared intently at her. Lily felt her cheeks, no, her entire body, flush with heat. She could barely breathe. She was going to die. Who are you? After being stared at for what felt like an eternity, Lily finally broke, her voice deliberately cold and aloof. The moment the words left her mouth, she was stunned by her own genius. Lucas was actually taken aback by her icy tone for a second. He quickly double-checked to make sure he hadn't mistaken her for someone else. The mask and hat made it hard, but her eyes? Nope, it was definitely his goofball. Who I am isn't important. What's important is that I must have been born to meet you, Lucas said, his crossed leg swinging casually. He tapped his phone on the table. Hey, beautiful. Can I get a number? Let's get to know each other. I don't talk to strangers. Lily was all ice. She turned away, tugged at the brim of her cap, and continued coldly. I don't know you. You're being very rude. We'll know each other once we talk. Let me buy you dinner, Lucas said with a raised eyebrow. Lily's heart fluttered. She quickly stood up before she could completely fall for it. I have somewhere to be. I'm leaving. She had to admit, no matter when or how she met Lucas, she would have fallen for him completely. This roguish version of him was just too charming. Just as she stood, Lucas grabbed her wrist. We should probably save this little role-play game of yours for when we're home. It's a bit much out here in public, he said, clearing his throat and leaning toward her, fighting back a laugh. Lily was so mortified she wanted to crawl into a hole and die. He knew it was her from the very beginning. This was so embarrassing. She should have never pretended to be a stranger. She puffed out her cheeks and sat back down beside him with a huff. What are you doing here? I don't want to live anymore, Lily wailed, her voice thick with tears. Life is so hard. Lucas almost burst out laughing. Stop messing around. I'm asking you a question. I came out with Erin. She should be at work. And where is she now? Lucas glanced around. Ditching work during business hours to go shopping with the boss's girlfriend? He'd be docking her pay when he got back. He'd been so busy lately he hadn't had time to mess with her salary. She'd been getting away with way too much. Lily's hands twisted in her lap. She suddenly got a stomachache. So she went home. Lucas nodded slowly, not saying a word. Watching her nervous state, his gaze grew mischievous. This dork would never learn how to lie. Which raised the question, what was she doing at the mall by herself? Oh, right. What are you doing here? She asked, her expression innocent. Now, it was Lucas's turn to be nervous. What was he doing here? What was a grown man like him doing wandering around a mall with nothing to do? Shopping? For what? What guy just hangs out at the mall? He couldn't just say he was here to pick up an engagement ring. Lucas was completely stuck. It was a good thing Lily was a bit dense. Any other girl might have already been demanding to know where the other woman was. Why aren't you saying anything? Lily tilted her head. Lucas felt like he was about to die. My mom asked me to come out with her, Lucas said, pulling a reason out of thin air. He knew Lily would never bother to check with Emily about it. Where's she? She finished her shopping and went home. Lily nodded gently, not thinking twice. She had always believed whatever Lucas said. The word doubt didn't exist in her dictionary when it came to him. And today was no different. She nervously reached into her purse, her fingers brushing against the small ring box. She allowed a quiet sigh of relief. Humiliation was one thing, but as long as her real purpose wasn't discovered, she was fine. Still, remembering how Lucas had deliberately teased her, she couldn't help but feel frustrated. Fine. When we get home, I'm going to accidentally bump into him a couple of times when he's not looking. Do you have anything else to do? Lucas asked suddenly. His plan was to send this goofball home so he could hurry up and get the ring. This wasn't something he could put off. Even if he hadn't planned the whole proposal yet, it was better to have the ring on him. This wasn't something he could put off. Even if he hadn't planned the whole proposal yet, it was better to have the ring on him. The moment he sensed Lily was up to something, he could drop to one knee on the spot. That way, he'd still be the one to propose first. His feeling that Lily was plotting something was getting stronger by the minute. He just didn't feel safe without the ring in his pocket. He hoped she wouldn't force his hand. A proposal was a once-in-a-lifetime event, and it should be special. Then again, Lucas thought this was actually kind of fun. Most people wouldn't get to experience something like this. They'd probably just buy some flowers and candles online, arrange them in a heart shape, and get down on one knee. That was a bit boring. Lily's clear, beautiful eyes blinked. I don't have anything to do. Then hurry home. I'm craving dumplings tonight. And if you go now, you'll have just enough time to make them, Lucas said shamelessly. It's been a while. I want both seafood and pork with green onions. Why don't you make some of each? Lily paused for a second before replying softly. Okay. It was a bit of a hassle, but it was worth it if it meant Lucas would eat more. Without hesitation, she grabbed her bag and got ready to leave. Are you staying here? She asked, turning back after a few steps. Nope, I'm leaving with you. I have to go to the office. Lucas spun his car keys around his finger and stood up to follow her. He watched as Lily rode away on her little scooter before he finally felt at ease. But he didn't go straight back. Instead, he got his car from the underground parking garage, drove a full circle around the mall, and went in through a back entrance. A few minutes later, someone tapped lightly on the jewelry store counter. The owner looked up to see a young man standing there in a trench coat, sunglasses, and a face mask on a hot summer day. He was dressed so conspicuously, he looked like a fugitive on the run. I'm here to pick up a ring, the man whispered, darting his eyes left and right as if he were casing the joint. Damn, he looks even more like a fugitive now. The jewelry store owner was baffled. He'd seen two weirdos in one morning. Was it a new trend to dress like a thief when picking up an engagement ring? What was with young people these days? A few days later, midsummer, the sun blazed down. Seattle had transformed into a giant furnace overnight. Green leaves were torn from branches by strong winds, only to shrivel on the hot asphalt. The streets were muggy and suffocating. The apartment was lively. Even from the bedroom, Lucas could hear the sound from the living room. What's so nerve-wracking about a diamond promotion series? Lily, I'll carry you. Lucas closed his eyes and smirked. It was those two, playing video games again. He was pretty sure Lily was the only girl in all of Seattle who got carried in ranked games by her own little sister-in-law. A couple of days after Emma finished her finals, Robert and Emily had taken off on a trip, as if celebrating the completion of their glorious parental duty. They told Emma she could go wherever she wanted and to just ask for money if she needed it. He'd gotten the same treatment, but Emma wasn't interested in traveling. She had been staying in Seattle ever since her exams ended. Feeling lonely at home, she was always coming over to their place. Lucas figured that, given Emma's cunning, she would probably leave the day Lily's period was over. If she stuck around any longer, she'd be making an enemy of him. After resting for a bit longer, Lucas got up and shuffled out of the bedroom like a zombie. He ambled over to the entryway and bent down to put on his shoes. You two have fun. I'm heading to the office, he said, then pointed at his sister. And Emma, remember to change out that keyboard with the blue switches before you go to college, or your roommate will murder you. He could hear that incessant, typewriter-like clatter all the way from his room. I have a near-silent one, Emma said, sticking her tongue out at him. He was always worrying about nothing. Just as Lucas was about to open the door, Lily stood up. I'm coming too, she said nervously. What made you want to go to the office? Vanessa is heading over there today, and I wanted to see her and Aaron. When Lucas didn't respond, her voice grew smaller. Is that not okay? Lucas snapped out of it and gave her a small smile. Of course it's okay. Come on, I'll take you. He had paused because it felt weird to bring Lily to the office while he was hiding in his room, plotting a proposal. The walls had ears. Lily nodded and came to his side. Seeing that Emma was still glued to her computer, he pointed at her again. Emma, you're coming too. Me? I think I'll pass. You really should come, Lucas said, his eyes sending her a secret message. Emma immediately panicked. Her brother didn't know what Lily was planning, but she did. She knew very well that both of them were heading to their respective war rooms. If she went, and they both called for her at the same time, her cover would be blown on the spot. Quick-witted as ever, Emma clutched her stomach. I want to go, but my stomach hurts. Drink some hot water, Lucas said dismissively, taking Lily's hand and heading out the door. Walking down the stairs, a smirk played on his lips. Something's up with Emma. He had tested her enough. He didn't know what she was plotting, but she was definitely hiding something. Now all he had to do was find the right moment to test Lily. The moment they arrived at the office, the atmosphere felt heavy. They saw Chloe sitting at her desk, crying. A group of girls from the art team surrounded her, all looking anxious. The guys from the programming team were typing away furiously in the distance, pretending not to see a thing. Lucas paused, then called out, "Aaron, for God's sake, be a decent human being. You're the only one in this whole company who bullies Chloe. And now look, you've made her cry." Of course, he wasn't just blaming Aaron without knowing the facts. He knew she wasn't that kind of person. But when someone is upset, they feel helpless. A little drama like this would make Chloe feel like someone was on her side, which might make her feel a bit better. Besides, Aaron annoyed him all the time anyway, so he might as well use her as a tool. "Don't you dare accuse me. This has nothing to do with me." Aaron stomped over, fuming. Lucas snorted, "And you expect the police to believe your lies?" Aaron shot Lucas a glare, then glanced at Lily. She covered her mouth and whispered to them. She broke up with her boyfriend. Weren't they together for like 6 or 7 years? The whole high school sweethearts to newlyweds thing. Lucas murmured, finding it hard to believe. To be fair, Chloe had been one of the first to jump aboard the sinking ship that was Polaris Interactive in its early days. While she wasn't one of the original founders who had competed in the game jam and earned their first pot of gold, she still held a significant position in the company. After all, being the sole assistant to the head of the art department wasn't a role just anyone could fill. And since Aaron was the type to hold power without ever using it, Chloe indirectly had a lot of say over many people's careers. But maybe she didn't care, or maybe she was completely unaware of it, because she had always been a bit of a wallflower at the office. The only time she ever got any attention was when Aaron was publicly bullying her. The rest of the time, she just quietly did her work. Lily had once poured her a glass of hot water on the way to her own desk, and Chloe had been grateful for it ever since. She was just that kind of down-to-earth person. You'd think someone like that would have a stable love life. If you're feeling down, just go home and rest. Take a trip somewhere you like. I'll still pay you, Lucas said gently, walking over to Chloe's desk. The crowd that had gathered around her quickly dispersed at the sight of their boss, not wanting to be caught slacking off. They all scurried back to their desks. Lily, the boss's girlfriend, didn't stand idly by. She went to the water cooler, carefully mixed a glass of lukewarm water, and silently brought it to Chloe. Her hands were clasped tightly together, as if she wanted to offer some comfort, but her lips parted and closed several times without a single word coming out. When Chloe heard Lucas's offer and saw the glass of water from Lily, she suddenly started crying even harder. Lucas. Half an hour later, Lily had finally managed to comfort Chloe enough to see her off. The office quickly returned to its usual busy atmosphere. Lucas scanned the room, choosing not to mention the half hour of work everyone had just missed. Aside from the people poached from Titan Gaming, almost everyone at Polaris was under 30. They were a lively bunch, and the camaraderie between colleagues was genuine. It was just that none of the girls seemed to know how to comfort someone. Their efforts had been completely useless. But Lily, the boss's girlfriend, was on another level. Her entire comforting technique consisted of handing over tissues and patting a hand, without saying a single word. And somehow it worked wonders. They got together because they liked each other. Why do some people break up? Lily asked, biting her lip, genuinely curious. That's a hard one to explain. Why? You're so smart. Lily's eyes were filled with apprehension, as if she desperately needed to understand. Lucas looked up and thought for a moment before saying softly, because people are too complicated. Maybe one person simply gets bored and wants to find someone better. Maybe after spending so much time together, they realize they're not compatible at all. Or maybe one of them just suddenly and unfairly matures faster than the other. There's so many reasons. Liking each other doesn't guarantee you'll be together forever. Some people like each other, but don't end up together because of their parents' objections or family issues. And some people truly love each other, but were never in love at the same time. The world was a huge place. People broke up for every reason imaginable. Go back a decade, and you'd even find people getting divorced because their wives couldn't produce a son. Lily's clear eyes blinked, evidently not understanding. After a moment, she lowered her head and whispered, I don't want to break up with you. She couldn't imagine a life without Lucas. She didn't dare to. Girls were prone to daydreaming, and she had imagined countless futures for herself, but never one without him. If she pictured herself becoming the most famous artist in the world, the first thing she'd see was Lucas, a man for whom millions of dollars were nothing, looking at her with genuine pride. If she imagined herself finally seeing the ocean for the first time, she knew that on that golden beach, Lucas would be there, his pants rolled up, his back to her, as he faced the sea. This man had so unreasonably taken over every single one of her fantasies about the future. As she was lost in thought, she heard Lucas say, "Silly dork. You should say, I won't break up with you. Is there a difference?" Lily tilted her head, not getting it. Lucas smiled. Of course there is. When you say you don't want to, it makes it sound like you have no say in the matter, like you can only beg me not to leave you. But you do have say. The decision of whether we break up or not will always be in your hands, and yours alone. His meaning was clear. He would never be the one to end things, but if Lily ever fell out of love with him, he wouldn't cling to her shamelessly. And besides, Lucas paused, his gaze softening as he met hers. The truth is, I'm always scared you'll leave me. So when you say it like that, it helps me feel a little more secure. This time Lily understood. She quickly turned her head away, leaving Lucas with a view of just the tip of her ear, flushed red and peeking through her dark hair. She didn't say anything, but Lucas could feel her hand squeezing his a little tighter. You don't have to be scared. You know, I've always been hopeless. I could never leave you, she murmured after a moment. Lucas glanced over. Lily was staring off into the distance, a thoughtful look on her face. He smiled and squeezed her soft hand. As he looked up, he saw Jason helping Vanessa through the door. He hadn't seen her in a while, and Vanessa's baby bump was now quite noticeable. One hand rested on her lower back, the other held by Jason. She looked well cared for. It was obviously an act. With her constitution, she didn't need any help walking. Jason shot him a look, and Lucas understood. He said a word to Lily and headed into his office. Jason followed him in. I'm sorry, man, Jason said as soon as he closed the door. Lucas was confused. Sorry for what? Most of my money is tied up in the house now. You're about to propose, and it looks like you're going to have to invest the house money into the business instead. It's fine. We weren't thinking about this when you got married. There's nothing to be sorry for, Lucas said, completely unbothered. Besides, I don't need to buy a house to propose to Lily. That goofball is perfectly happy living in our little rental. He would give Lily the best life possible eventually. A year or two wouldn't make a difference. Not to mention, what she wanted most right now wasn't money. Hearing this, the guilt in Jason's heart vanished, replaced by an urge to punch his friend in the face. He took a deep breath and said excitedly, I looked it up. There are a few high-rises along the Puget Sound waterfront with LED screens on them. We could just pay them, and they'll put on a light show for you. You and your girlfriend stand on the shore, and the entire skyline across the water lights up. We can have any words or images you want. Lucas had a feeling Jason was using him to make up for the proposal he never got to have. I've already done something like that. When? Lily's birthday. I hired drones to fly over the water. It was way better than LED lights. Damn it. I spent 3 days and 3 nights coming up with an idea you've already used. Jason cursed. I need to think of something else quick. What's the rush? You're proposing. You should take your time and plan the most romantic thing ever. I just feel like getting the certificate would give me more security, Lucas said, his thoughts a little jumbled. Anyway, that's not important. First, let's make a new group chat without my sister. Emma was definitely up to something. He couldn't have her in on any more important discussions. What? Is your sister the mole? That's a harsh way to put it. How could you call my sister a mole? She's my flesh and blood, my right-hand woman. Meanwhile, in the room right next to Lucas's office, where's your little bodyguard? Vanessa asked Aaron as soon as Lily helped her sit down. She was referring to Chloe, the girl who was always trailing Aaron like a little shadow. Broke up with her boyfriend. She just left after a good cry. Aaron sighed. She was still a little worried, but Chloe had insisted on being alone. Seeing Vanessa was about to ask more, she quickly explained it was a long-distance thing. Her boyfriend started working back in his hometown after graduation. Apparently, his family pulled some strings to get him the job, and the pay is great, so he's been pushing her to move there and get married. But Chloe's family isn't from that state, and it's a pretty remote place. She'd never find a decent job at her field there, let alone one that pays as well as this one. His family was nagging him to get married, so he started nagging her. But Chloe didn't want to move so soon. They fought about it a lot, and eventually, he just broke up with her. Chloe's take-home pay, after taxes and insurance, was over $20,000 a month. Honestly, Aaron wasn't sure she'd be willing to leave either. The turnover rate at Polaris, aside from those who were maliciously poached, was incredibly low. Everyone knew they'd be hard-pressed to find a better boss than Lucas. He could be a pain, but he was undeniably capable and a great leader. The fridge was always stocked with drinks, and the ergonomic chairs, even though Lucas had scammed them from the university, were for them to use. He never bothered with nauseating corporate culture, and overtime was triple pay. Who would want to leave? It's hard to say who's at fault in a situation like that. If they couldn't work it out, I guess it just wasn't meant to be. Aaron sighed again. This was one of the reasons she didn't want to be in a relationship. Vanessa crossed her arms, snorting contemptuously. I still think the guy's a jerk. Right, Lily? Huh. Lily, as if waking from a dream, quietly agreed, right? I guess. Lily felt she couldn't sort through the situation as quickly as Lucas could. She just knew that Lucas would never disregard her personal wishes like Chloe's boyfriend had, and she would never hesitate like Chloe did. She would run to Lucas without a second thought. So, forget figuring out who was right or wrong. She didn't even understand those two people. Her reaction made Vanessa smile. Well, you should lock down that proposal soon. I've only got another 2 months before I'm stuck at home. So if you want to cause some trouble, now's the time. Lily, who had been quiet the whole time, slowly looked up. What do you guys think would be a good place to propose? The office fell silent. After a long moment, Aaron spoke up. Definitely the park where you two met as kids. You just hit him with it. Straight up. I want to marry you. Are you in or not? She was still obsessed with their story. Proposing in the place where they had first met as oblivious children before they even knew what love was and making a promise for life. It was just too romantic. They were just kids back then, separated by thousands of miles for nearly a decade. And now, that little girl was about to propose. Aaron felt like rolling around on the floor with excitement. That could work. If he says no, I'll beat him up for you, Vanessa said, nodding in agreement as she stroked her chin. She glanced down at her growing belly. I wonder if that counts as assault with a deadly weapon. Lily slowly shook her head. That's too obvious. Lucas will definitely guess what's going on. Then the movie theater. Propose after the movie ends. I've seen it in TV shows. Aaron suggested. Vanessa disagreed. It doesn't feel special enough. What about the beach? We could all go on a trip together. Imagine it. Right at the moment the sun breaks over the horizon, when the first rays of light hit the water. Wouldn't that be romantic? Listening to them debate, Lily quietly bit her lip. It all sounds so complicated. Can't I just ask Lucas if he'll marry me? She wasn't looking for some grand romantic gesture. She just wanted to marry Lucas. That was enough. Emma thinks an amusement park would be good. Lily mumbled, glancing at her phone after listening to them for a while longer. Her quiet voice was quickly drowned out by their excited chatter. Fortunately, both of them were used to her soft-spoken nature, so they heard her. Any of them would work. Just pick one, Vanessa said, looking at Lily. All you have to do is get ready mentally. When you're ready, we'll start planning. Lily fiddled with her fingers and said, in a voice as soft as a mosquito's buzz, I want to do it as soon as possible. The room fell silent once more. You're not nervous anymore? Vanessa asked, pinching Aaron's cheek to make sure she wasn't dreaming. Just a little while ago, this girl was stuttering about how she didn't have the courage. Lily instinctively glanced toward the door, her mind filled with the image of Chloe's heartbroken face. She took a slow breath. I'm not nervous. Her voice was uncharacteristically firm, even though her hands, hanging at her sides, were trembling slightly. Let's just do it tomorrow. That night, the sound of rushing water came from the bathroom. The door was closed, a warm light glowing from within. Lily was taking a shower. While she was busy, Lucas sat on the sofa with his laptop, meticulously listing out all the proposal ideas his friends had suggested in a Microsoft Word document, carefully weighing each one. He rested his chin in one hand, the faint glow of the screen reflecting in his unblinking eyes like a tiny white square. Leo and Jason both suggested the LED light show on the waterfront, but he'd already done something similar for her birthday. Doing it again would lack originality. Ryan's idea was even more ridiculous. He suggested designing a custom escape room-style puzzle game for her. Fun, but not feasible. He couldn't have her relying on hints the whole way through. Could he? Actually, maybe he could. It was still better than the LED lights. Emma's suggestion was more practical, an amusement park. A lot of young couples proposed there, and the staff were usually happy to help. But she was most likely a double agent. What are you doing? You look so focused. A soft voice suddenly came from beside him. Lucas jumped, slamming the Windows key +D to minimize everything to the desktop. He turned his head, feigning calmness. What's up? He learned that trick back in his first-person shooter days and had never needed it since. He never thought it would come in handy like this. Thank goodness for his foresight, or he would have been busted on the spot. Lily, who was sitting next to him drying her hair, froze at his overly dramatic reaction. Her mouth fell slightly open, and she just stared at him, blinking dumbly. Nothing. I called your name a few times, and you didn't answer, so I figured you were busy. Yeah, a little, Lucas said, his heart still hammering against his ribs. Are you busy tomorrow? Lily asked, wrapping her arms around him and resting her chin on his shoulder. Nope, Lucas answered immediately. He actually was. He had a meeting with Veronica Vance, Seattle's most famous investor, and several other venture capitalists. But he could reschedule. It would just take a bit more explaining. But if he said no to Lily now, Who knew when she'd work up the courage to ask again? Then can we go to the amusement park tomorrow? She asked, her voice getting quieter and quieter. Lucas's pupils constricted. Oh no, I was careless. I didn't see it coming. Lucas broke out in a cold sweat. He was still here, studying locations and logistics. And she was just dropping this on him? This goofball was launching a blitzkrieg, completely devoid of any sense of fair play. If you have something to do, it's okay. We can go another time. Lily said softly when Lucas didn't answer for a long time. Lucas was about to say he had just remembered something, but he stopped himself mid-sentence. The words were already out. He couldn't take them back. Besides, changing his mind now would not only hurt Lily's feelings, but even if she was too dense to realize something was up, her team of advisors definitely would. If she was really planning to propose, Aaron and Vanessa had to be involved. The two of them would put their heads together and might figure out that he was also planning to propose. And then there was Emma, who was most likely a double agent, just enjoying the drama from both sides. Lucas turned to see the disappointment on Lily's face, and all his complicated thoughts vanished. I'm free tomorrow, he heard himself say. If you want to go to the amusement park, let's go. We had to watch Maya last time, so there were a lot of rides we didn't get to try. Lily blinked. Then a slow smile spread across her lips. She leaned her head on his shoulder, closing her eyes with a look of pure, dependent contentment. Her long hair was still a little damp, and a few strands brushed against his neck, cool to the touch. After a moment of silence, Lucas managed to calm his racing heart. Okay, so she just got the first move. What's there to be nervous about? Was he, the great Master Carter, that easy to defeat? No matter how much Lily struggled, she was still going to end up in his pot. He had one whole night to prepare. He would just have to intercept her plan before she could make her move. Then another thought struck him. What if Lily really did just want to go out and have fun? They were both homebodies and hadn't gone out for a while. She had seemed to have a good time at the amusement park before, but he couldn't risk it. If he let Lily be the one to propose, it would bother him for a long, long time. What was this sudden chain of suspicion? He felt like Lily was pointing a gun at his heart, but he had no idea if she was actually going to pull the trigger. After thinking it over, Lucas made his decision. He would move the proposal to tomorrow, regardless of whether Lily had her own plans or not. He wasn't going to bet on whether her gun was loaded. He was just going to shoot first. Late that night, Lily was out on the balcony, holding Dottie in her arms, whispering on the phone with her mother, Sophia. The summer night was anything but quiet. The chirping of crickets occasionally drowned out her gentle voice. Lucas, of course, was not idle. He was propped up in bed, his eyes glued to his phone. Emma, bro, how long are you going to drag this out? My sister-in-law is beautiful and amazing. If you don't marry her soon, aren't you afraid she'll run off? Lucas, tomorrow. Emma, why yes. Jason and Leo both sent a question mark. Lucas, I'm planning on proposing tomorrow night, after we get back from the amusement park. I'm busy during the day. So, can you guys find a nice restaurant and talk to the owner for me? Jason replied a moment later. Let's just book the whole place. It'll be easier to set things up. Emma, must be nice to be rich. Seeing Emma's message in the group chat, along with her Lelouch avatar, Lucas snorted. Whether she was just a drama lover or a full-blown traitor, giving her false information could only help his real proposal plan. A smug smile touched Lucas's lips as he switched to the group chat that didn't include Emma, his fingers flying across the screen. Lucas, that was just a drill. Lucas, now for the real plan. Jason, can you first explain why this is so sudden? Lucas, I think Lily's going to propose to me. That's not happening. I have to do it first. He then tagged Jason at Jason Miller. You're so useless. You sleep next to Vanessa every night, and you couldn't tell your wife has defected to the enemy? I bet my life that Aaron and Vanessa both know about this. The more he thought about it, the more all their recent strange behavior started to make sense. The chat went awkwardly silent. After a long moment, Jason finally replied, Hey, think of it this way. She didn't figure out I was plotting with you either, did she? Lucas paused. That was a good point. Leo, wait, did you guys just gloss over what he said? I think Lily is going to propose to me. Leo, dude, I can't take this. Lucas Carter, you bastard. I've never seen a girl like this in my life. There are guys at UW who would form a line around campus just to talk to Lily, and here she is, about to propose to you. Leo, if word of this gets out, those guys might as well just jump off a bridge. We're your friends, we worry when you're down, but seeing you this happy is just painful. Damn it. Jason, I suddenly don't feel like helping him anymore. What are these two idiots freaking out about? Lucas thought, rolling his eyes. He continued typing. It's too last minute to design something elaborate. I'm thinking a fireworks show at the amusement park like at Disneyland. He didn't care if it was cliché at this point. He had no time to prepare. Jason, You think they'll let you set off fireworks? Lucas, we can get the fire department on board. Jason, so, should you talk to your Uncle William, or should I handle it? Lucas, neither of us has to. The amusement park manager can coordinate with the fire department. They could just say it's for some special event, a Disney-style fireworks show. All we have to do is pay. It's a win-win for everyone. He proposes, and the park gets free publicity. Jason, all right, looks like none of us are sleeping tonight. This guy can't leave the house, so we'll handle the arrangements. Leo 1. Ryan, I'm so hyped I can't even sit still. Leo, where did this guy come from? Jason, he's a lurker. I thought you were asleep. Ryan, Image. JPG, as you can see, I am working overtime. With the plan more or less settled, Lucas took a deep breath and put his phone down. He only had one job tomorrow. Keep a close eye on Lily at all times. Just then, Lily pushed the door open and came in. He watched her silently, and it was Lily who broke eye contact first, nervously tucking a strand of hair behind her ear that was already perfectly in place. She sat on the edge of the bed, then lay down, settling into his arms just like she always did. The atmosphere was strange. Lucas couldn't find anything to say, just inhaling the unique, clean scent of her hair. How's your mom been lately? Lucas asked after a while. She's good, Lily said. She didn't have the heart to repeat Sophia's exact words. Just get married already. I want to come over and babysit my grandkids. She just snuggled deeper into his arms. Let's sleep. Okay. The girl looked up from his embrace and placed a soft kiss on his neck. Good night. Hours passed. The clock in the living room struck 2, but neither of them, despite having said their goodnights, had fallen asleep. Even though their respective teams of advisors had been blowing up their phones all night, the two people planning to propose didn't manage to wake up until noon the next day. By the time they got ready to leave, it was already 1 in the afternoon. The sky was overcast, so it didn't seem too hot. They had been to this amusement park before with Maya. This time, they planned to try some of the rides they couldn't go on while looking after a child. Today, we're going to do things only adults can do, Lucas said, looking at the park map. Lily subtly shuffled a few steps away from him, refusing to be his accomplice. You sound like a pervert. What? Lucas looked up at her, feigning innocence. He played dumb so convincingly that it was Lily whose face turned red. She stammered for a moment, unable to form a coherent sentence, and just glared at him, a mix of embarrassment and annoyance. Lucas was quite pleased. No matter how frustrated this goofball got, she would never hit him in public. She was too concerned about his image. Sigh, she's too nice. Too bad he wasn't a nice person. Perhaps anticipating that they would be going on roller coasters and giant pendulum rides, Lily was dressed simply in a t-shirt and jeans again. But with her figure, even the simplest outfit couldn't stop his eyes from being glued to her. At least today, she wasn't wearing a mask and a baseball cap. She had tried to, but he hadn't let her. It was one thing to dress so cautiously when she was out alone, but to do it with him? Her social anxiety would never get better that way. All right, I'll stop teasing you, Lucas said, holding out his hand. The park closes late in the summer. We should have enough time to do everything. Lily kept her face turned away, not moving. Her eyes flickered toward his hand for a split second before darting away again. Lucas chuckled and flexed his fingers. You really not going to take it? He said with a smirk. He wasn't worried at all. This dork had 0 willpower. I'm putting it away now. Last chance. Just as he was about to pull his hand back, she grabbed it tightly. I'll take it. Lily mumbled, her head bowed. I never said I wouldn't. You didn't have to threaten me. She said it with a surprisingly righteous tone. Lucas squeezed her hand, doing a quick mental calculation. This time, she hadn't even lasted 5 seconds. Next time, can't you just take my hand first? Lily asked, sounding a little wronged. To her surprise, Lucas sighed. I always want to, but you never manage to hold out for more than a few seconds. What am I supposed to do? It's not my fault, she said, as if she were the victim here. Lucas swung their joined hands. Okay, it's not your fault. The first ride they were going to try was the roller coaster they had missed last time. They got in line and moved forward with the crowd. When the announcement came on, warning that the elderly, children, and people with heart conditions should not ride, Lily nervously poked Lucas's shoulder. Have you been on this before? Yep. Lucas pointed to a trash can in the distance. See that can over there? Last time Jason got off this ride and spent a good 5 minutes hugging that thing. Lily, if you're scared, we can go on the kiddie rides, Lucas teased. Lily bit her lip. We already bought the tickets. It would be a waste not to go. In the distance, a group of people screamed as the coaster flung them through the air. She quickly looked away. It felt like waiting in line for the gallows. A very unique gallows that you had to pay to get on. She was regretting this, but she couldn't waste the money. Lily wished time would slow down, so her turn would never come. but at the same time, she wanted to get it over with. Get it over with and get on with life. While she was having this internal battle, they were already being strapped into their seats. As luck would have it, they were in the front row. "How are you not scared at all?" she asked, looking at Lucas's completely calm expression. "Because this is the first time I'm riding a roller coaster with you." He smiled gently and opened his right hand. "Remember when we first got together, I suggested we go to an amusement park? I wanted to bring you on a roller coaster so I could trick you into holding my hand when you got scared." He was only halfway through his sentence when Lily's hand shot out and clasped his, their fingers intertwining. Before he could react, she gave him a sweet smile. Lucas smirked and squeezed her hand back tightly. The staff's final warning ended abruptly. The coaster shuddered, then began to move. Lily froze. She remembered watching Interstellar, how time moved differently on that one planet. She felt like time on this roller coaster was different too. Every second felt like an hour. The coaster climbed to the top of the track and paused. "Woo!" Lucas shouted, raising their clasped hands. The car was filled with young people today, and a bunch of them in the back rows joined in, screaming, "Let's fly!" Unfortunately, their excitement was short-lived. The next second, their voices cracked. "Ah!" After what felt like an eternity, the roller coaster finally came to a stop. Lily was still staring straight ahead, her eyes glazed over. Lucas smiled and gently booped her nose, then tenderly brushed the stray hairs from her face. "Dude, you and your girlfriend are insane. You two didn't even look scared," the guy in the row behind them said, giving Lucas a thumbs up as they were leaving. This couple was on another level. He felt like he was about to pee his pants the whole time, and these two in the front row didn't make a single sound. My hand is still shaking," Lucas admitted. He was actually surprised too. Lily had a fear of heights. He had been looking forward to seeing what kind of scared faces she would make, but she had been completely silent the whole time. "Look at those people in the back. They screamed their lungs out." "How come you didn't scream?" Lucas asked as soon as they got off. "I was too embarrassed." Lily lowered her head, biting her lip, then pointed to her mouth. It was a little raw. It seemed she had been biting it every time she felt a scream coming on. "You silly goose," Lucas said, taking out a tissue to gently wipe her lips. "It's a good thing you're not dumb enough to bite your own tongue. You would have been the first person in history to commit suicide on a roller coaster." "Should we go?" the girl asked, her voice trembling. "Let's rest for a bit." MHM. So, the two of them stood there, leaning against opposite walls, facing each other. After being together for so long, they could share a moment of unspoken stubbornness. That ride wasn't even that thrilling. "Let's not do that again," Lucas said, trying to take a step but finding his legs were still jelly. He casually leaned back against the wall. "Boring." Lily nodded vigorously. I think so too." The couple, being completely honest with themselves, immediately crossed the giant pendulum and bungee jumping off their list. 10 minutes later, when Lucas finally felt some strength return to his legs, he led Lily to continue their tour of the park. "Should we go to the haunted house?" she suggested, looking at a sinister-looking building in the distance. Lucas froze. No one proposes in a haunted house, right? He thought suddenly. This was his mental state today, terrified that a moment of carelessness would allow Lily to beat him to the punch. After a second, Lucas decided his cautiousness was ridiculous and strode confidently toward the entrance. "You sure about this?" he asked one last time. "Have you forgotten how you clung to my leg and couldn't stand up when Emma pretended to be a ghost? That was at home. In a haunted house, I know it's fake." "I won't be scared," Lily said, her voice betraying her lack of confidence. "I have to try it, right?" If she got scared and clung to his leg now, at worst he'd just laugh at her. But what if they came back when they had kids, and their kids saw her? Lucas shrugged helplessly. This dork was the poster child for all passion, no skill. Just then, a staff member dressed as a bloody nurse spoke up. "You two will need to evade being captured while searching for evidence of the doctor's human experiments inside the psychiatric hospital. Escaping counts as a win, but if you find all 4 pieces of evidence, you'll get a prize." Feels like I'm playing Outlast, Lucas thought. The immersion was strong. His fingers were already starting to ache. After the staff member explained the rules, Lucas glanced at Lily. I'll try my best not to slow you down," she said, mustering her courage. The staff member gave them a wicked grin. "You two will be lucky just to make it out." She'd been working here for over a year and had seen countless couples start arguing the moment they left the haunted house. She had never seen anyone win. Half an hour later, Lucas walked up to her, a koala bear, otherwise known as Lily, clinging to his body. He slapped 4 pieces of parchment on the counter with a deadpan expression. "Where's the prize?" The staff member was stunned. Seeing the girl still wrapped around him, she was even more stunned. She had seen it all on the security cameras. At first, he was almost killed because his girlfriend was clinging to his leg and he couldn't move. So, the next time a monster appeared, he just picked her up and ran. He did the running, and she did the navigating and spotting clues. They were surprisingly coordinated. It was just that this handsome guy was incredibly competitive. The prize is a medal. You can pin it on your clothes, the staff member said, respectfully handing it over with both hands. Here, take 2. Thanks. Lucas took the prizes and walked away. He didn't know why those actors were so persistent. They clearly didn't understand the power of a top-tier kiter. They tried a few more rides they had missed last time, then sat on a bench to rest. It was already past 6, and the sky was growing dark. Lily took a bottle of water from her bag, opened it, and handed it to Lucas. Did you have fun? Lucas asked. Yeah. Lily was clearly exhausted. She rested her head on his shoulder and closed her eyes. Lucas nodded, a strange look in his eyes. What's with this dork? Isn't she supposed to be proposing? Is she ready to go home already? And here he had been on high alert all afternoon, on edge every time they were in a secluded spot. Wait, so you really did just want to come out and have fun today? Fine. If you won't propose, I will. He took out his phone and sent a message to Ryan. Lucas, are the fireworks ready? Ryan, they're ready, but it's about to rain. We can't set them off. It's already starting to sprinkle over here. Lucas, he had planned for everything except the weather. Seriously, who checks the weather forecast before proposing? Well, at least it seemed his goofball's gun wasn't loaded after all. Just as Lucas left on his urgent business, Lily sat on the bench, not in a hurry to leave. She gently stroked the metal from the haunted house, a faint smile on her face. Suddenly, 2 figures stood in front of her, blocking the light from the lamppost. She looked up. Aaron and Vanessa were staring at her anxiously. Why haven't you been answering your messages? Aaron asked, shaking her arm. Lily felt dizzy. My phone's about to die. It's at like 10%. I didn't dare use it. Well, tell us. How did the proposal go? Did Lucas cry his eyes out? Aaron pressed. Lily froze. She reached into her pocket, her fingers closing around the small ring box. Her clear, beautiful eyes went wide with shock. Vanessa's eyebrows shot up. He said no. It's not that he said no. Lily shook her head, then quickly lowered it, peeking up at them shyly. I was having too much fun, and I forgot. Forgot? She forgot? How could someone forget something like that? Vanessa and Aaron were completely dumbfounded. They never imagined this turn of events. Emma was stunned too. She still thought her brother was planning to propose at a restaurant tonight, and had already drafted a text in her notes to mock him for getting beaten to the punch. But now it seemed her brother was about to win by default. The atmosphere was frozen for a long moment before Vanessa finally snapped out of it. Call him back here now. Vanessa felt the baby kick her in frustration. She waved her hand at Lily, exasperated. Lily, go change into the dress. We'll find a restaurant, set up some flowers, and then tell Lucas you went missing during dinner to lure him back. The dress was one she and Aaron had helped Lily pick out. It looked almost like a wedding gown and was perfect for a proposal. She had been trying to contact Lily all afternoon to tell her to change into it before proposing. Who would have thought she'd get so caught up having fun with her boyfriend that she would forget the main event? Oh, Lily nodded. She had mentally prepared herself to propose today. If she gave up now, who knew when she'd work up the courage again? Strike while the iron is hot, and all that. She couldn't lose momentum. She was already starting to lose her nerve. What are you standing there for? Go! Aaron bit her lip, half angry, half amused, and gave her a little push. Lily scrambled off. The dress shop was nearby. If she ran, she could be there in a few minutes. Watching her retreating figure, Aaron couldn't help but sigh with a smile. This dork was the kind of girl you could take out for a day of fun, good food, amusement parks, and she'd have a great time, go home happy, and only remember she was supposed to confess her love when she was pulling out her house keys. It was adorable, but as her best friend, she was about to have an aneurysm. I think there's a nice restaurant nearby, Vanessa said, tapping her chin. Aaron thought for a moment. Oh, right. Lily said her phone was about to die. She said it had over 10% left, right? That's enough to check a message. As soon as we book a place, we'll let her know. Inside a black Mercedes parked on the side of the road, Jason rolled down the window, looking at the distant Ferris wheel. He flicked the ash from his cigarette. If you change your proposal plan, doesn't that mean you bought all those fireworks for nothing? Lucas shook his head slowly. Not for nothing. I can use them for Lily's birthday. Or I could sell them to you at a friendly discount. You can set them off for your wife. You bastard, that last part was your real point, wasn't it? Jason shot back. So, you want to grab a bite to eat? Lucas sat in the passenger seat, staring thoughtfully out the window. A few raindrops had started to appear on the glass. After a moment, he pulled out his phone. I'll contact those investors, See if they're free for dinner tonight. There was no point in two guys eating together when they could be doing something productive. He was just about to look up a contact when a message from Aaron popped up. Aaron, we were having dinner, and Lily disappeared. You have to come help us find her. Lucas froze. Where are you? Aaron, at the entrance of that restaurant right next to the amusement park. Hurry, I'll send you the location. We can't reach her. Jason leaned over like a turtle craning its neck to look at his phone. Lucas snapped out of it and slapped his arm. What are you waiting for? Drive. Careful, it could be a trap, Jason said, exasperated. For someone so smart, Lucas's IQ plummeted whenever Lily was involved. Did he really think Aaron would just randomly be having dinner near the amusement park, so far from the city, on a day she wasn't even there? My son, you are wise. A man would be lucky to have a son like Jason Miller, Lucas said, giving him a thumbs up. He immediately tried calling Lily. Sure enough, it went straight to voicemail. Without a second thought, Lucas told Jason to drive to the location Aaron sent. The moment they arrived, he didn't even wait for Jason to find a parking spot. He just jumped out of the car. Lucas walked into the restaurant and saw the heart-shaped arrangement of candles and flowers, then looked at the three masterminds behind it all. His heart sank. Damn it, I knew it. Aaron actually dared to prank him. She was clearly overpaid. He was about to say something when he saw Aaron looking at him with a blank expression. Lily's gone. Yeah, I get it. I already took the bait, Lucas said, rolling his eyes. She was really committed to this act. Whatever. As soon as Lily appeared, he would just drop to one knee first. As long as he was faster, this whole setup would be for him. Aaron's breathing grew ragged. No, Lily is actually gone. I tried calling her a bunch of times on your way over. I can't reach her. Lucas's train of thought screeched to a halt. You're not kidding. We were kidding. No, wait, we were kidding before, but now she's really gone. She went to change her clothes, and she's not back yet. Lucas didn't say anything, just tried calling her again. The same familiar message. The user you have dialed is currently unavailable. I can't get through. Her phone's off. It must have run out of battery, Aaron said. Just as she finished speaking, Lucas's phone buzzed. It was a text from Lily. Can you come pick me up at the amusement park entrance? I'm on my way. Silly dork, why are you texting? Lucas thought. He instinctively replied, okay, but when he tried calling again, the phone was already off. With no other choice, they all headed to the amusement park entrance to wait. Aaron glanced at the others' backs, then scooped up a bunch of the flowers and stuffed them into her bag. Better to have them than not. Might need them later. 20 minutes later, dusk had settled, and a thick layer of dark clouds blanketed the sky. A few small birds flew low in front of them before disappearing into the distance. The Ferris wheel was lit up, turning slowly. The atmosphere grew heavy. When did Lily text you? Aaron asked, taking her phone out of her pocket and poking Lucas's shoulder. Lucas glanced at his phone. 20 minutes ago. Just then, Emma ran back to them, bent over with her hands on her knees, gasping for breath. I checked the dress shop. She's not there. The owner said my sister-in-law left a long time ago. Aaron's face grew pale with anxiety, her lips trembling. She's had enough time to walk back and forth a dozen times. She couldn't imagine any reason Lily wouldn't have come straight here. That dork wasn't like her. She wouldn't get distracted by something interesting on the way. We could check the security cameras. It wouldn't be that much trouble, Jason suggested. Lucas's expression was complicated. It was the most logical thing to do, but it also felt strange to go to such lengths when she was probably just unreachable because of a dead phone. Jason saw his hesitation and gestured toward Vanessa. Whatever. I did the same thing when this one ran off. She was crying in a corner. If I hadn't checked the cameras, I never would have found. He was cut off as Vanessa stomped hard on his foot. Go. Stop wasting time. Lucas nodded grimly. You guys go. Call me if you find anything. I'll wait for her here. We agreed to meet here, he added. Watching them split up, some to check security footage, others to continue searching, Lucas found a conspicuous spot to stand and stared out at the street. He took a deep breath, telling himself not to panic. That dork had the dumbest luck. She was always incredibly fortunate, whether it was in gotcha games or TFT. Besides, even though this was an amusement park, not many people parked nearby, so traffic wasn't heavy. And with so many people still around, someone would call an ambulance if she fainted from hypoglycemia. And besides, Lucas reasoned with himself, suddenly realizing his hands were clasped tightly together. He quickly let go. Damn it, her habits are rubbing off on me. He let out a wry smile. In a daze, he thought he could smell the scent of wet earth. Just then, a low rumble of thunder sounded in the distance. Heavy, fast raindrops began to fall, hitting the asphalt, a dark spot appearing, then fading, then reappearing. The road in front of him was like a clean sheet of paper, gradually being splattered with ink until it was completely soaked. Lucas held out his hand, and a single raindrop landed in his palm. It was raining. The rain fell harder and faster, a solid sheet of water. The pedestrians on the street thinned out, and through the patter of the rain, a little girl's sobs could be heard. In a small alleyway. "Sweetie, I really am your mom's co-worker," a middle-aged woman said, rushing forward to the little girl huddled in the corner. "Why are you being so stubborn? Your mom asked me to bring you home." The short-haired girl gripped the iron railing with both small hands, refusing to budge. I don't know you." Just as the woman was about to grab the girl, Lily stepped in front of her. The woman finally realized someone else was in the alley. While she was startled, Lily quickly pulled the little girl behind her. Facing the hostile-looking woman, Lily's heart pounded in her chest. A kidnapper? But it's broad daylight, and even if this is the outskirts, it's still Seattle. This was the kind of thing you only saw on the news. It couldn't be happening to her. Her heartbeat grew louder, almost drowning out the thunder. The woman clicked her tongue and scolded the girl. "You little brat, we had dinner together over winter break. You ran away from home, and now you pretend you don't know me. Come on, don't make a scene," she said, stepping forward again. Both Lily and the little girl flinched and took a step back. With no other choice, Lily mustered her courage and shouted, "If you come any closer, I'm calling the police." She was about to pretend to record a video to scare the woman off, but her hand froze. Lucas had taught her this. Bad people are cowards, but you have to leave them an escape route. This woman was only wearing a face mask. If she recorded her, the woman would have no way out. She didn't even know if she had accomplices. So, she just held her phone in her hand, trying to look like she was ready to dial 911 at any moment. Even though her phone was completely dead, the woman glared at her. "Who are you? This is none of your business." "I'm her sister," Lily shouted without thinking, placing a protective hand on the girl's head. Seeing the little girl clinging tightly to Lily's leg, the woman yelled in frustration, "I'm going to tell your mother to give you a spanking when we get home." With that, she turned and disappeared around the corner of the alley. Lily watched the end of the alley with a lingering fear, then quickly wiped away a tear and half ran, half walked the little girl back to the main street. Seeing the occasional car and pedestrian, she could finally breathe again. She pressed the power button on her phone. Still no response. "Thank goodness I sent that text to Lucas before it died. I really need to save up and get a new phone," she thought to herself. It was so old it couldn't hold a charge anymore. The moment the battery turned red, it drained like it was falling off a cliff. 1 second, it was at 10%, the next it was shutting down. It always picked the worst times to fail her. Lily puffed out her cheeks in frustration. Unlike Lucas's iPhone, her phone was an Android. Only Android users knew the sheer psychological pressure of that 30-second shutdown countdown. She had stared at the loading screen of her messaging app for a full 10 seconds before giving up. Calling might not have been fast enough, and the reason she hadn't texted Vanessa to wait for her was because Lucas's was the only phone number she had memorized. So she had sent him that one text, planning to lure him back to the amusement park entrance to finally propose. She might not have the romantic setting, but at least she had this dress she had been saving. But now, Lily looked down at the little girl crying beside her. She saw the ground around the girl slowly getting soaked, then looked down at her own pristine white dress. A dress that, aside from the lack of veil, looked very much like a wedding gown. Her heart sank. This was the easiest color to stain. Lily had found the little girl right after leaving the dress shop. She was crying in the alley, but no matter how many times Lily tried to talk to her, she wouldn't respond. She couldn't just leave her, so she had crouched to the mouth of the alley, occasionally trying to coax a word out of her, while hoping Emma or Aaron would come looking for her. And then the woman had appeared. Lily was still shaken, her mind screaming for her to find Lucas, but she couldn't bring herself to leave the girl alone. She crouched down beside her. "Don't cry, okay? I'll help you. You believe I'm not a bad person now, right? I wouldn't have helped you otherwise." The little girl looked no older than 6, probably still in kindergarten, even younger than Maya. No parents in sight, and now this in a thunderstorm. Any other kid would just be crying their eyes out. "It's raining. Let's find somewhere else to sit." The rain was getting heavier. Lily had to pull her to a nearby bus stop, holding the girl in her arms, her eyes darting around like a frightened deer. After a moment, seeing the girl wasn't crying as hard, she asked softly, "Want some candy?" The little girl nodded. Lily rummaged through her purse for some fruit candy, checking that the ring was still there. She unwrapped a piece and held it to the girl's lips. The little girl ate it, and her crying subsided. "You shouldn't take candy from strangers," Lily said, then realized how strange that sounded. "But I'm a good person, so it's okay this time." "Okay." Hearing her finally speak, Lily quickly asked, "Did you get separated from your mom and dad?" "I came out by myself." "Where do you live? I can take you home." She didn't seem to notice her own hair was soaked as she gently tidied the girls. "I live in East Lake Gardens." "I don't want to go home," the little girl said, her eyes downcast. Lily paused. That neighborhood wasn't far from her own apartment, which meant it was at least a 30-minute drive from here. "Don't think you can lie to me just because I look gullible." "I know where that is," Lily said, trying to sound stern. The little girl mumbled, "I really did walk here by myself. It's close to my grandma's house. I walked to her house, then I saw the Ferris wheel and walked here." Lily was dumbfounded. She didn't know whether to be amazed at how dangerous that was or ashamed that a little girl had a better sense of direction than she did. After a long conversation, Lily finally got the whole story. The little girl's name was Stella Ryan. She had run away because her parents were fighting about getting a divorce. They had promised to take her to the amusement park, but didn't, so she had come by herself. As she spoke, the little girl started crying again, and this time she couldn't stop. "Maybe your mom and dad were just arguing. No matter what's happening now," Lily said, gently holding the girl's hand. "You have to believe that the future is beautiful. I promise. But I hate them. Daddy drinks a lot and comes home late every night. Then Mommy yells at him, and it's so loud I can't sleep." Once she started talking, Stella couldn't stop. "My friends at kindergarten say their daddies are like that too. Are all daddies the same?" Lily wiped the tears from the little girl's face and said softly, "Maybe. I don't really know." "Why not?" "Because." Lily lowered her head, a sad smile on her lips. "I don't have a dad." Stella didn't say anything. At her age, she couldn't quite grasp the weight of those words. She just felt a tightness in her chest. But the older girl didn't seem to feel that tightness. She quickly smiled again, just as gently as before. "Tell me your parents' phone numbers. I'll help you convince them not to get divorced, okay?" Stella thought for a moment, then slowly recited a number. 206. Lily blinked. Kids these days were so smart. She knew her address, her parents' phone numbers, and had a better sense of direction than her. For a moment, Lily wondered what use a kidnapper would have for this girl. She felt like she was the one who was easier to abduct. After all, she'd already been abducted by Lucas. Thankfully, the phone number was easy to remember. Lily repeated it to herself as she ran across the street to a barbecue restaurant and asked to borrow a phone. As she was crossing back, a car sped by without slowing down, splashing her with muddy water. Lily sat back down at the bus stop and looked at her mud-stained dress. Tears of frustration welled up in her eyes. Then she remembered something and pulled a piece of paper from her purse. It was the speech she had prepared for her proposal. It was completely soaked, the words blurred and unreadable. Good thing I mostly memorized it. A small smile crept onto her face, which then quickly faded. When she got nervous, she forgot everything. Just as she was about to wipe her eyes, the little girl placed a hand on her knee. "Don't be scared, big sister. The bad person is gone." I'm not scared," Lily said, pouting as she forced her tears back. "Why is it so hard to propose?" Nearly an hour later, the little girl's parents finally arrived. They were both a mess, their hair and clothes soaked through, clearly having searched in the downpour for a long time. The moment the young mother saw her daughter, she burst into tears. "You've learned to run away from home now, have you?" she cried, then knelt and hugged the little girl tightly. "Mommy was wrong. I'm so sorry." The young father stood by silently, staring at his daughter's wet hair and muddy clothes. After a moment, he crumpled the divorce papers in his hand into a tight ball and threw them into a nearby trash can. Neither of them had made a terrible mistake. What problem couldn't be solved with communication? He looked at Lily and offered a sincere thank you, then pulled a check from his wallet. Having majored in accounting, Lily knew exactly what it was. Her mouth watered, but she waved her hands and refused. The man then seemed to lose all his strength, crouching down to gently stroke his daughter's head. "Daddy promises I'll never fight with Mommy again." "Pinky swear," Stella said through her sobs. "Okay, we pinky swear." Watching the scene unfold, Lily couldn't help but smile. It had been so long since she had felt what it was like to be held by both her parents. Actually, that wasn't right. She couldn't remember it ever happening, so she didn't even know what it felt like. "It's so nice," she thought. The next second, she remembered something. She turned, gathered her skirt, and started running, splashing through puddles on the sidewalk. "Big sister," the little girl shouted from behind her. "Where are you going?" I'm going to propose," Lily yelled back as she ran, her voice a little clumsy. Her heart was a mess of emotions. She desperately wanted Lucas to go home and get out of the rain, but at the same time, she prayed he was still there, waiting for her. Watching Lily run farther and farther away, Stella blinked in confusion. "What's proposing?" she asked, looking up at her mother. It's when you ask a boy to marry you. Then they become like mommy and daddy and start a new family and have a cute little baby just like you. Stella's attention returned to the mud spots on Lily's dress. But her dress is dirty. Will it still work? Of course it will, her mother said with certainty. That girl is the kindest, most pure-hearted person I've ever met. The person she loves must be a kind person too. That boy will definitely say yes. On a person like that, the woman thought, watching Lily's slender, moving figure, the mud on her dress is just another beautiful pattern. That boy is so lucky to be proposed to by a treasure like her. I saw you standing here hours ago. I'm closing up shop now. Why are you still here? The woman running the street hot dog cart called out to Lucas. Kids these days, standing in the pouring rain instead of just going home. Lucas looked up to see the woman standing in front of him, holding an umbrella. If you don't have an umbrella, take this one. Just get home. It's okay, ma'am. I'm waiting for someone. If they haven't shown up by now, they're not coming. It's raining this hard. They probably went home ages ago. Even I, who wants your money, am going home. Who could you possibly be waiting for? Lucas's gaze dropped for a moment. Then he looked up again with a gentle smile. She'll be here. He had waited for people countless times in his life. He had waited for Scarlett the most. That princess would be late for all sorts of reasons, or sometimes just not show up at all because of some petty mood. And yes, he had waited for her in the rain, just like this. Back then, his heart would be filled with anxiety, so much so that he grew to hate rainy days. He wasn't sure if it was because he didn't know how to get home, or because he was afraid no one would be willing to get drenched with him. But not this time. This time, he was waiting for a girl he knew, without a doubt, would come. The woman saw he had no intention of moving, sighed deeply, and rode off on her modified food truck. Lucas crouched under the eaves of the ticket booth, watching the rain. The fine drizzle had become a dense, heavy downpour. Pedestrians hurried past, their umbrellas bobbing. But his heart was calm. Seeing a car splash through a puddle, his mind suddenly flashed back to last year. He remembered a girl who didn't care that her clothes were soaked, standing in the most conspicuous spot just so he would see her. That image was etched into his mind as if a master artist had carefully painted it, then carved it there with an iron stylus. He could still clearly remember her faded jeans, her light green jacket, the way she stood timidly in the crowd, and her ears, red from the cold. He could even remember the feeling of his heart starting to beat again that day. The next second, he stood up and walked to the most conspicuous spot, even though it meant standing in the rain. Lucas smiled to himself, took a deep breath, and looked down at the ring in his hand. The ring he still hadn't had a chance to use. In a daze, through the circle of the ring, he saw her. He saw Lily running toward him. Even though Lily had changed, Lucas recognized her instantly. He didn't waste a second, sprinting forward and pulling her under the relative shelter of an awning. They stood there like a pair of drowned rats, but Lucas was smiling, a wave of relief washing over him. "You look so beautiful today," he said, his smile genuine, as if he hadn't even noticed the mud splattered on her formal dress. Lily looked at Lucas, soaked to the bone, and then down at the dress she'd planned to wear for her own proposal, now dirtier than ever. The tears that had been welling in her eyes finally broke free, and she started to cry. How had her perfect proposal turned into this? If only she hadn't gotten distracted. No, if she hadn't forgotten, that little girl would have been left all alone. So, it was better that she forgot. Was her proposal just doomed from the start? The more she thought about it, the harder she cried. She reached into her purse for a tissue to dry his hair, only to find the pack was just as soaked as they were. "I'm sorry, I made you wait so long." "Silly, what's there to cry about? You're always calling me silly, but you're the one who doesn't know how to get out of the rain. I had to wait for you, didn't I? Your phone was dead. What if you couldn't find me? I could have walked home. You should have just left when it started pouring like this." Lucas started to explain, then a memory hit him. A slow smile spread across his face. He gently cupped her cheek. "I made you a promise." Lily froze, her mind flashing back to that day. "You call me silly then, too, but you waited even longer today. That makes you the sillier one." "Yeah, well, after all this time together, it's rubbing off on me." Lucas let out a soft sound, then couldn't resist gently poking her forehead. "I'm just now realizing you hold a grudge, you little dork." "No, I don't. I have a terrible memory," she mumbled, turning her face away. "So what took you so long?" As Lily slowly explained the whole story, the sky, unbeknownst to them, had begun to clear. It was past 7 now, the downpour having washed away the summer heat, leaving the air cool and crisp. The moon slipped out from behind a thick blanket of clouds, illuminating their edges and casting down a soft, cool light. When she finished, Lily noticed Lucas's expression had turned serious. She instinctively tried to inch away, but he caught her cheek between his fingers. I was wrong. I won't be so reckless again, she said quickly, squeezing one eye shut. Lucas sighed, finally letting her go. Lily looked down at the puddles on the ground, fiddling with her fingers. I actually had all these flowers set up in the amusement park. They're probably all ruined by the rain now. It's okay, Lucas said. I came prepared. Just as he spoke, a call he must have made earlier connected. A voice on the other end said, "Hello." The rain stopped, Lucas said into the phone. "Let's get started." A minute or two passed. Just as Lily was about to ask what he meant, a golden firework exploded behind her. It blossomed in the night sky, growing larger and larger until it seemed to consume that entire patch of darkness. Then, countless streams of light rained down, illuminating their faces. One after another, more streaks of light shot upward like reverse meteors, bursting into a rainbow of flowers across the night. Crimson, violet, gold. They looked like roses, violets, chrysanthemums. They bloomed like dandelions, then fell like spider plants. It was as if someone had intentionally planted a sea of flowers in the sky. Soon, a crowd of passers-by and lingering park visitors had gathered, their attention captivated by the display. They all stared upward, their faces lit by the massive explosions of color. The dazzling spectacle in the sky was so captivating that no one noticed when, in the middle of the crowd, a young man dropped to one knee before the girl in front of him. While Lily stared, mesmerized by the fireworks, Lucas simply watched her, a gentle smile on his face. "How did you plan so many surprises?" she said, her voice thick with emotion, half pout, half plea. "I can't possibly love you any more than I already do." She looked up at the sky, her long lashes framing eyes like brilliant jewels, each reflecting a dozen tiny, vibrant explosions more breathtaking than the real ones above. Soon, those clear, beautiful eyes grew glassy, and a single tear formed at the corner, catching the light of a firework as it fell. "Oh, right, there's something I wanted to tell you." The girl began, finally tearing her gaze from the sky. She reached into her purse, and that's when she saw him. Lucas was kneeling in front of her. She froze. "As for surprises, I might have one more," Lucas said softly. A watery film blurred her vision. She couldn't make out the details of the ring, only the way the silver band caught the kaleidoscopic light from the fireworks. Gradually, Lucas's face began to blur too. Seeing the tears in her eyes, the knot of anxiety in his chest finally uncoiled. He knelt there, gently taking her hand and looking up at her. "Ever since we got back together, I felt guilty," he began. "For all those years when you were hurting, I was never there for you. Not once. But I'm also grateful every single day that we found each other again. Grateful that our time together when we were young wasn't like these fireworks. Brilliant for a moment, then gone forever. I don't know how many coincidences it took to get us here, to this exact moment. But Lily, thank you for coming back to me when I was at my lowest. Lily, thank you for loving me." He lowered his head and pressed a soft kiss to the back of her hand. "I can't take care of your past, but please, let me take care of your future." You really want to marry me?" she whispered, her voice getting smaller and smaller. "Of course." Lily bit her lip, fresh tears tracing paths down her cheeks. "But I'm so clumsy. I'll just cause you trouble, and I'm scared of new people. I can't even talk to strangers. And my memory is terrible. I get lost all the time." Lucas stood and pressed his finger gently to her lips. "Lily," he said softly, "marry me." She couldn't speak, just wiped at her tears over and over. After a moment, she managed to stammer through her sobs. "Why did you have to make it so grand? It's not like I would have said no. And you bought such an expensive ring," she cried, completely losing her composure, hiccuping between sobs. The thought of how much the fireworks and the ring must have cost just made her want to cry even more. "You still haven't answered," Lucas reminded her, a little anxiously. He needed to hear the words. Lily wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and shouted, her voice ringing out, "I-D-O." Her cry coincided with the explosion of the grand finale, the largest firework of the night, but Lucas heard her loud and clear. A smile touched his lips, and in the next second, Lily's arms were around his neck, and she was on her toes, kissing him. Two lonely, fragile souls had finally, in that moment, come into full bloom. After a long moment, Lucas pulled back slightly. "Wait, I'm not done." "What?" "I love you." "You rarely ever say that," Lily realized. "Were you saving it for now? You're finally catching on." Lucas brushed her bangs from her forehead, a habit he couldn't break, even though she'd long since grown them out. He met her gaze. That night, long ago, the wind had blown her bangs aside, and their eyes had met for an instant that felt like an eternity. Back then, In her eyes, he'd seen skyscrapers, city lights, a universe of stars. But now, in her clear, jewel-like eyes, he saw only himself. This time, it was he who tilted her chin up and leaned in to kiss her. Lost in the moment, neither of them noticed when the rings appeared on their hands, a perfect, seamless fit, as if they were made for each other. Everything was just right. "Ma'am, we're here at the waterfront. You can pay on the app." "Okay." Vanessa got out of the taxi. She walked to the spot Jason had sent her, leaning her hands on the railing and staring out at the shimmering surface of Puget Sound. She had no idea what had gotten into him, insisting he had something important to tell her in person, here of all places. He'd even told her not to contact Lucas and Lily, saying they were fine and could find their own way. Such a child. Even though it was summer, the post-rain evening wind coming off the water was cold, raising goosebumps on her arms. After waiting for a while with no sign of Jason, she pulled out her phone. The moment he picked up, she let him have it. "Jason, I've been here forever. Where are you? You're going to make your very pregnant wife stand here in the cold waiting for you? What is wrong with you?" The man on the other end clicked his tongue. "Quit your yelling. Look across the water." "Across the water?" Vanessa looked up, puzzled. All she saw were the dark silhouettes of downtown skyscrapers. Nothing else. Suddenly, all those dark buildings lit up, one after another, like fountains of light shooting upward. When they faded, each building became a pulsing note, blinking in its own rhythm. Vanessa stared, stunned for a moment, then sniffled, a smile tugging at her lips. "I think the Bellagio might want to have a word with you about copyright." "TCH. Just watch." As soon as Jason spoke, a line of text appeared on the tallest building. "Vanessa, marry me. Honey, marry me." Jason's voice echoed through the phone. "You're an idiot. We've been legally married for ages, and you're proposing now?" Vanessa grumbled, but tears were already welling in her eyes. He chuckled on the other end. Just you wait. I stole 2 boxes of fireworks from my buddy. I'm going to set them off for you." All right, you're such a crybaby. How long have you been crying today?" Lucas sat on a bench, pulling the still sniffling girl into his arms. Lily hugged him tighter. "You have no idea how happy it makes me, being able to marry you." A small smile played on Lucas's lips. "The feeling's mutual." "But why did you have to propose today?" she asked, her voice muffled as she buried her face in his neck. "I was all ready to propose to you. I proposed today because I knew you were going to." "Why?" "You were the one who confessed first. If you proposed first, too, wouldn't that make me look pretty useless?" Lucas let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "Thank God I won." He wanted to pop a bottle of champagne. "I, the great Master Carter, have finally won." "Oomph. So childish," Lily said, but she couldn't help but laugh. "You won a long time ago." "What do you mean?" Lucas looked at her, confused. "The day I confessed to you, when you put that ring on my finger." Lily turned her face away, waiting a long moment before whispering, her voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz. "From that moment on, I knew I'd never marry anyone but you." Lucas was speechless. Maybe I can win the next round? That night, thanks to their evening shower, both of them came down with a fever. "You're already at 100 degrees. I knew I shouldn't have told you to wait for me." Lily mumbled, the thermometer tucked under her arm, her eyes downcast. "And how was I supposed to propose if I went home?" Lucas said, completely unconcerned. He reached out and felt her forehead. She was much hotter than him. "It's been 5 minutes. Go on, see what yours is." In truth, you didn't need 5 minutes when you had a real fever. The temperature shot up almost instantly. He hadn't been so meticulous about timing since he was a kid trying to fake a sick day. When he'd do anything, breathe on it, shake it upside down to get the number higher. Lily obediently took out the thermometer and glanced at it. 101.5, she murmured. Lucas's eyes widened. He quickly took it from her to check. She was right. How did this dork manage to get a higher fever than him? It might only be a degree and a half difference, but it felt like so much more. When you had a fever, every tenth of a degree was a new level of misery. Seeing her drooping posture, he felt a pang of sympathy and gently rubbed her cheek. "You feeling okay?" Lily shook her head weakly. "I'm fine. I just feel really bad for you. I think this is great." "What's great about it?" "We get engaged, and then we immediately get to suffer together." "How memorable is that?" Lucas idly twirled a stray lock of her hair around his finger. "It's a sign we're in it for the long haul." Maybe it was the fever making her delirious, but Lily giggled along with him. She slowly stood up from the sofa and climbed onto his back. "Let's go to bed," she whispered, her warm breath tickling his ear and sending a shiver through him. It was like this goofball had a different personality when she was sick or drunk. Her courage level shot way up. "Hang on." Lucas pulled his DSLR from a coffee table drawer and took her left hand. "What's wrong?" "I want to take a picture." Holding her left hand in his, he aimed the camera with his right, trying to find the perfect angle. After a moment, Lily heard the familiar click of the shutter. She was more than used to it by now. When they first got together, he would occasionally take pictures of flowers or sunsets. Now, he only took pictures of her. His most common phrase had gone from, "What a beautiful sunset," to "What a beautiful sunset." "Quick, stand over there so I can take a picture of you." He quickly adjusted the photo on the camera screen. In the frame, their hands were intertwined, fingers laced together, the rings on both of them standing out clearly. She stared at the rings on their middle fingers, a sweetness welling up inside her until she felt she would burst. She couldn't help but nuzzle against his neck. "I love you so much." An irrepressible smile spread across Lucas's face. "I know. Carry me back?" Lily asked, tightening her arms around him. "Okay." Lucas hooked his arms under her legs and stood, lifting her onto his back. She was light, easy to carry, especially since she was clinging to him like a little octopus. It took almost no effort. "Will you still carry me on our wedding day? Don't you think a princess carry would look better?" Lily smiled, content. She had been so anxious just yesterday, and now they were casually talking about their wedding. Ever since she got back together with Lucas, she had looked forward to every tomorrow, and now, even more so, she looked forward to them reciting their vows, getting their marriage license, their wedding day, their future little baby. "What are you smiling about?" Lucas teased, not realizing his own grin hadn't left his face since they'd gotten home. "Oomph." Lily didn't answer, instead playfully nipping his shoulder. "Let's not go to the bedroom yet. Let's go find Dottie on the balcony." Lucas had no choice but to turn back from the bedroom door and head toward the balcony with her on his back. He had no reason to refuse. After all, this dork only got willful under two conditions: when she was drunk or when she was running a high fever and her head was all fuzzy, like now. Dottie was perched on the railing, one cat alone with her thoughts, silently watching the night. Lucas suddenly felt a little sorry for the silly cat. He decided that once she was a bit older, he'd let her go find love. "What's up?" he asked the cat. "Meow. Isn't it pretty?" He held up his ring in front of Dottie's face, grinning mischievously. Dottie tilted her head and leaned in for a lick. Lucas quickly pulled his hand back. The silly cat tried to taste everything these days. Not the brightest bulb. Dottie's face scrunched up, her eyes full of grievance. "This is the ring my wifey gave me. I can't just let you lick it," Lucas explained patiently. "You're a mature little lady cat now. Go find some other tomcat to give you one." Before Dottie could respond, Lily, still on his back, pressed her mouth to his ear. The tip of her tongue darted out and licked him. "Meow," she whispered. A violent shudder ran through Lucas. He felt the blood rush from his head. He wasn't sure if it was the meow or the lick, but his knees felt weak. Her voice was already faint and breathy from the fever, and it was driving him crazy. "You're always playing with Dottie. Why don't you talk to me?" "I can meow too," she said, her voice a plaintive whisper. Okay, stop talking like Dottie. I'm a patient right now, you know," Lucas said, exasperated. "Weren't you the one who wanted to come find the cat? This woman is trying to seduce a sick man into vigorous activity. She has no conscience." Before long, she must have gotten sleepy because she quieted down, resting peacefully on his back. After laying her on the bed, Lucas let out a long breath and laid down beside her. "Good night," he whispered, looking at the girl curled up in the blankets. The words seemed to stir her back to consciousness. She scooted closer, pressing her warm body against his. "I don't want to sleep." "Why not?" Her voice was hazy. "I'm scared that when I wake up tomorrow, I'll find out that today was all a dream." "Don't be scared. If it is, I'll just propose all over again." He stroked her cheek, about to say more, but realized she had already fallen asleep. The next day, both Lucas and Lily were still feeling groggy and decided to take the day off. Jason had been promptly arrested the previous night for illegally setting off fireworks and was only released after writing a formal apology. A few hours later, however, he was called back to the station to receive a verbal commendation. It was a strange coincidence. While reviewing security footage, he'd noticed the middle-aged woman talking to the little girl. The way she kept glancing at the girl while on the phone for a good half hour had struck him as odd, so he'd mentioned it. Having spent half his childhood doing homework at the police station, he had a good instinct for this sort of thing. The police agreed it looked suspicious, brought her in for questioning, and sure enough, she confessed. It was a whole human trafficking ring. They had planned to take the abducted children out of state that very night, but the woman, seeing the heavy rain, decided to try her luck at the amusement park one last time. They ended up catching the whole group. The cops looked at Jason with a complicated mix of expressions. They just finished lecturing him, and now they had to praise him. What a world. Lucas didn't wake up until the afternoon. When he opened his eyes, he saw Lily lying on her stomach next to him, her legs kicked up behind her, swinging back and forth. Her notes for finals were spread out on the bed, but she wasn't looking at them. Her eyes were glued to her phone. Lucas got up and peeked over her shoulder. Of course, she was staring at the calendar app. Stop looking. Counting the days won't make it come any faster, he said with a laugh. Lily sighed. Can't time to speed up? It's almost July. Your birthday is only a little over 3 months away. It'll be here in a flash. Looking at the ring on her finger, he felt a bit dazed himself. He couldn't blame her for feeling like it was a dream. He felt like he was in one, too. Just yesterday they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and now they were engaged. He took her left hand, his gaze fixed on the ring he'd placed there himself. I'm going to put away somewhere safe later, Lily said, her touch on the ring so gentle and careful. Why? Lucas blinked, confused. I don't want to wear it out. I still have to do dishes and laundry. Lucas chuckled. What's there to worry about? This is an engagement ring. We'll get new ones when we get married. Huh, we have to get different ones. Lily's mouth fell open slightly. Can't we just use this one? We need a matching set for the wedding. That way, when people see it, they'll know you're my wife. Okay. Hearing the words, matching set, Lily reluctantly agreed. A pair of rings was more auspicious and looked better. Anyway. So, you're my fiancé now? How does it feel? Lucas asked, turning on his side to face her. What does it feel? Yeah. Lily thought for a moment, then said seriously, I want to be your wife. Lucas paused, then leaned in and wrapped his arms around her, his lips close to her ear. Then you'd better start practicing. Call me husband. No way, you pervert. She quickly buried her face in her pillow. Lucas wasn't giving up. He took her hand and gently shook it. You're wearing the ring. How is it perverted for me to ask you to call me husband? We're not officially married yet, she stammered. It wasn't that she hadn't tried whispering it to herself while he was asleep that morning, but it was just so embarrassing. It's only 3 months. You're not getting away. I'm going to make you say it all the time, Lucas said, his hand straying to gently stroke her back. He realized she was covered in sweat. You're burning up. Why isn't the AC on? I'm getting better, but you're not. You could have just gone to my room. Lily gave him a complicated look. The AC in your room has been broken for over a year now. The AC in your room has been broken for over a year now. Lucas felt his heart skip a beat. But Master Carter was nothing if not resilient. He immediately went on the offensive. What do you mean I broke it on purpose? Where's your evidence? He sucked in a breath. No wonder Lily hadn't mentioned the air conditioner once in over a year. The silly dork knew the whole time. She just hadn't said anything. It made sense. Who in their right mind lets their AC stay broken for a year and a half? No matter how much she trusted him at first, she must have figured it out eventually. So all those times he'd been secretly congratulating himself on his genius plan, he'd just been acting like a clown? Damn it. From now on, his poker face was going to be legendary. If you didn't break it on purpose, then why didn't you get it fixed? Lily mumbled. I must have forgotten. I'm a perfect gentleman. Would I ever do something so devious? Lucas continued to lie with a straight face. And let's just say, hypothetically, that I did do it on purpose. It's been over a year. Why are you only bringing it up now? He trailed off, giving her a pointed, suggestive look. Lily quickly pulled a pillow over her head and buried her face in the bed. I'm silly. I don't know anything, she muffled. Lucas stared at the ceiling for a moment, then burst out laughing. He had gone to such ridiculous lengths to trick her into napping at his place. Then, sharing a room wasn't enough, so he'd started scheming about how to share a bed, deliberately breaking the AC. It was brilliant. He held up his hand, looking at the ring on his middle finger. After more than a year of strategic maneuvering, he'd finally tricked this dork into becoming his wife. Oh, right. She wasn't technically his wife yet. A vein in Lucas's temple throbbed. Why couldn't they just get it over with? Why did her birthday have to be so far away? As he was stewing, the ostrich next to him finally poked her head out from under the pillow. What about you? She asked in a tiny voice. You're my fiancé. How does that feel? I'm your what now? Lucas asked, feigning ignorance. The girl refused to look at him. After a few seconds, she finally squeezed out the words, my fiancé. That satisfied him. Lucas broke into a rare, goofy grin. The new title sounded so much better, miles ahead of boyfriend. It felt like he'd gotten a promotion. After a long moment, his smile faded, and his expression turned serious. I want to make it permanent as soon as possible. Lily smiled and rolled across the bed into his arms. Should we be having an engagement party or something? Now that they were throwing around the words fiancé and fiancée, the thought suddenly occurred to him. He vaguely remembered his cousins having pretty big parties. It was a way to announce it to everyone. Their engagement, on the other hand, had been a simple agreement between the two of them. It felt a little strange. At the very least, shouldn't their families get together for a meal? Lily blinked blankly. I don't know. I've never been married before. Lucas was speechless. I know you've never been married, you dork. He rolled his eyes internally and started thinking. He really didn't know anything about this. The only person he knew who was married was Jason, and that was a shotgun wedding. They probably didn't have time to even think about an engagement party. His mom had been to one for a colleague's son. Maybe you should ask her? Then he remembered that Robert and Emily were still traveling all over the country. This wasn't something they could discuss over the phone. It was best to wait until they were back. Maybe we shouldn't have one, Lily suggested quietly. Lucas was puzzled. To save money? But I thought the engagement party was when the families started talking about, financial stuff. Even though they couldn't get their license yet, it was never too early to start planning for something as big as a wedding. 3 months could fly by in an instant. They couldn't wait until after they were legally married to start thinking about this stuff. It would be too late. My mom said our family doesn't expect a big, extravagant wedding, the girl in his arms whispered, her voice full of shyness. And neither do I. Lucas was stunned. Wait, when did your mom say that? She mentioned it a long time ago. And then, the night before I was going to propose to you, she said it again. Lucas stared at her, dumbfounded. The night before his proposal, he'd been a nervous wreck, unable to sleep. Meanwhile, the night before her proposal, she'd already sorted out the family finances. Lily wrapped her slender arms around him, holding him tight. All I care about is marrying you. Nothing else matters. Lucas didn't say anything more. He simply leaned down and captured her lips with his, letting his kiss say everything he couldn't put into words. A little while later, the quiet bedroom was filled with the sound of rustling sheets. I should go take a shower. I got all sweaty. Why bother? You'll just have to shower again later anyway. The two of them didn't get out of bed until evening. Lucas was hungry, so he grabbed a slice of bread from the kitchen and sat on the sofa, munching on it while scratching Dottie's belly with his free hand. He glanced over and saw Lily sitting at her desk. As usual, her right hand gliding over her drawing tablet, completely focused. Lucas suddenly felt like a useless bum. His girlfriend was going to out-hustle him into oblivion. He was just about to grab his laptop and get some work done when his phone vibrated in his pocket. Ryan Brooks at Lucas Carter. Seriously? You propose and then just ghost everyone? I still don't even know if you succeeded or not. Jason Miller. He definitely succeeded. He's busy right now. Ryan Brooks. You guys have that much going on at the company? Jason Miller. Sigh. Such a child. Lucas couldn't be bothered to reply to them. Instead, he sent the picture he'd taken last night, their intertwined hands, rings on full display, to the group chat. Jason Miller at Ryan Brooks. You like asking questions? Satisfied now, Ryan Brooks has left the proposal planning chat. Lucas smirked and disbanded the temporary group chat. Its glorious mission was complete. Just then, he got another message, this one from Emma. Emma Carter. Bro, I asked my sister-in-law, and you did not propose at a restaurant. I'm an honest person. How could you lie to me? Emma Carter. You'd even lie to your own sister? Lucas's eyebrow twitched, his blood pressure spiking. And you have a nerve to call yourself my sister? On the other side of the screen, Emma's expression was complicated. Great. Now she'd managed to piss off both sides. She thought she could play the middle and get all the best gossip, but instead, everyone else was happy, and she was the only one getting chewed out. She knew what he was referring to and tried to defend herself. Emma Carter. Okay, I admit I was also in my sister-in-law's group chat, but joining the chat doesn't mean I agreed to help. Okay? Lucas Carter. Oh, so now we're getting technical? He was about to send another sarcastic reply when there was a soft knock on the door. He and Lily exchanged a look. Curious, he went to the door and opened it. It was Jason, and behind him stood a young couple he'd never seen before, and 2 police officers. Jason raised his eyebrows at him, then pointed a thumb over his shoulder at Lucas. Officers, he said to the cops, this is the guy. He's been intentionally flaunting his relationship in public. You should arrest him. Lucas tilted his head, a giant question mark materializing over it. Before his confusion could clear, one of the officers behind Jason gave him a light smack on the back of the head. Be serious, the older officer chided. He cleared his throat and stepped forward. Here's the situation. This couple are the parents of the little girl your girlfriend helped. They wanted to come and thank you in person. He paused, and we have a few questions about the details of the case. Is now a good time? Only then did Lucas notice a little girl hiding behind the woman, peeking out at him from time to time. He glanced back at Lily, who was still in her silk pajama dress, and subtly tilted his head toward the bedroom. Lily got the message and pattered back to her room to change. Everyone had the good sense not to step inside, waiting at the doorway as Lucas hadn't moved. Case. The word stuck out to Lucas. He thought it was a simple story of a kind citizen named Lillipad helping a lost girl get home. How did it become a case? We've confirmed it. The person who was talking to Stella was a human trafficker. If your girlfriend hadn't been there, the situation could have been very grim, the officer explained patiently. The young man's Adam's apple bobbed, his face growing paler. He quickly extended a hand to Lucas. Hello, I'm Stephen Jun. Really, thank you so much. Lucas was still trying to process everything, but he shook the man's hand. Nice to meet you. No need to thank me, he thought. I didn't do anything. Just then, Lily emerged, now fully dressed. She froze when she saw the people at the door. Big sister, Stella cried, running into the living room and hugging Lily's legs tightly. Did your proposal work? It seemed the near abduction hadn't left much of a shadow on her. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched Lily's lips. I guess you could say it was a success. She looked up and met Lucas's eyes. They both smiled, their gazes full of warmth. After welcoming everyone inside, Lucas and Jason huddled to one side, while Lily answered the officer's questions. I really thought I was in some kind of trouble, Lucas said with a laugh. Jason clapped him on the shoulder. If you were in real trouble, I'd be the one bailing you out, not leading the cops to your door. Your girl has social anxiety, right? The officers wanted her to come down to the station, but I saw how insistent this kid's parents were about visiting. So I took the easy way out and told them I'd bring them over so they could ask their questions here. She's not my girlfriend, Lucas countered coolly. Jason froze. They just got engaged yesterday, and they're already fighting? While Jason stood there looking bewildered, Lucas casually held up his hand, flashing the ring on his middle finger. She's my fiancée now. Damn it, Jason cursed internally. He'd just been about to offer some relationship advice. What's so great about a fiancé? I'm already married, Jason sniffed, and your ring isn't as nice as mine. He held up his own hand smugly. Wedding ring. See it? You can't even get a marriage license yet, you loser. The ring, including the custom design, had cost more than his car. And it really was a beautiful ring. Both he and Vanessa loved it. Who cares if the ring is nice? It's the wife that matters, Lucas shot back. And just so you know, my wife gave me this ring. She was going to propose to me with it. Jason had nothing to say to that. This jerk never gave him an opening. Lucas wasn't finished. And besides, it doesn't matter what it looks like. If she had folded one out of paper, I would have treasured it for the rest of my life. Shut up, you brat. After a bit more bickering in front of the cops, the two men stood quietly, watching the group on the sofa. Stella's mother held Lily's hand, her eyes glistening with tears of gratitude, while the two officers showered her with praise. Lily was so embarrassed she kept her head down the whole time, unable to say a word. Man, who would have thought? A girl that gentle went through so much crap, Jason sighed. He reached for a cigarette before remembering he'd quit a while ago. To be tormented by fate like that, and still hold on to such kindness and sincerity. He knew, 100 times over, that he couldn't have done it. Jason shoved the hand that had been searching for a cigarette into his pocket and gave a bitter smile. By comparison, his own struggles were nothing, yet he'd spent years wallowing in self-pity. If it hadn't been for Lucas and Vanessa pulling him out of it, who knows what a wreck he'd be now. It was pathetic. He wasn't even as strong as a girl. Lucas watched Lily's profile for a long time before speaking. She's always treated the world with such gentleness. It's only right that the world should be gentle back. You're the same way, you know. What? Lucas didn't understand. If you had been there, you would have acted even more decisively than your fiancée. Otherwise, you wouldn't have jumped into the river after Ryan Brooks's girlfriend that time. They'd known each other for years. Jason knew exactly what kind of person his boy was. Lucas just smiled, non-committal. Jason tapped the ring on Lucas's middle finger with his own, a wicked grin spreading across his face. You gonna keep jumping in after people? Lucas's gaze felt his ring. He was silent for a long moment. I'd probably hesitate for a long time, and then I'd jump in anyway. Jason chuckled. Told you. 2 peas in a pod. Soon, the officers finished their questions and prepared to leave. Jason, who was on familiar terms with them, walked them downstairs. Stella, time to go. Stop playing with your big sister, Stella's mother said, lifting the girl out of Lily's lap and giving her husband a look. Stephen Jun got the hint. He made an excuse to step out and returned a few minutes later, out of breath and laden with bags of fruit and gifts. My wife and I know you wouldn't accept anything too expensive, so we bought these ahead of time, he said, setting the pile down by the coffee table. We're a good 10 years older than you, so you can think of us as elders. Please accept them. Don't make us lose face. You couldn't refuse a gift from an elder. But while he said they weren't expensive, a quick glance showed that none of it was cheap. Lily was at a loss, but Lucas, as if expecting this, patted her hand reassuringly and stood up to take the bags. Well, since you put it that way, We have to accept, Lucas said. The man laughed. Haha, that's the spirit. Goodbye, big sister. Stella waved sweetly to Lily. Goodbye. Before leaving, Stephen Jin glanced around the apartment. Though it was tidy, it was undeniably old. Is this your own place? He asked. Lily shook her head. We're renting. Stephen Jin nodded. After some thought, he took out the check he had wanted to give Lily the day before. When you saved my daughter, you really saved my life, he said, sincerely and politely offering it to her. When Lily still shook her head, he assumed the girl was just a bit naive and didn't grasp the amount, so he turned his gaze to Lucas. But Lucas wouldn't take it either, not even glancing at the number. Please, just look at the amount. I truly want to thank you, he said to Lucas. Lucas finally lowered his eyes. Whoa, $30,000. He smiled and handed the check back. Save it for Stella's college fund. We can earn our own. Seeing this, Stephen Jin knew he couldn't insist. The family said their goodbyes and left. Sometime during their visit, the sky had darkened. Lily went to turn on the lights. Lucas suddenly raised his eyebrows at her. Should we have a daughter, too? We can talk about that later, Lily said shyly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear as she tied on an apron and headed for the kitchen. Lucas deliberately mimicked her usual tone of voice, calling after her, If we don't talk about it now, does that mean you don't want to have one with me? The kitchen door slammed shut. That's $30,000, the woman said as they walked down the stairs, holding Stella and looking puzzled. How did those two not even bat an eye? Isn't that girl still in college? She mumbled. Honey, did we not offer enough? Stephen Jun's mouth twitched. If we'd offered more, they'd have been even less likely to take it. He was baffled, too. He could understand Lily, but Lucas, who looked like he'd just graduated, didn't seem tempted at all. Was he not in need of money? But then why live in a place like this? Seeing her husband was just as confused, the woman decided to let it go. See, Stella, she said to the little girl, I told you, the big brother your sister likes must be a gentle person. If he hadn't accepted the other gifts, your dad would have been in a tough spot. That young man is not simple, Stephen Jin said suddenly, and I can't shake the feeling that his voice sounds familiar. He sighed and rubbed his head. I just can't place it. A few days later, they were summoned to Robert's for dinner. In less than a month, Robert and Emily had traveled across half the country, only rushing back the day Emma's final exam scores were released so they could celebrate. Emma had done them proud. Thanks to an unexpectedly high score in English, her total came out to 662, better than any of her practice exams. It was only 14 points lower than what her sister-in-law had gotten on her SATs. As for her brother, Lucas decided not to dwell on it. As long as everyone was happy, that's what mattered. Test scores were fleeting. He came back to the present, watching the elevator numbers climb. He glanced at Lily, who was standing beside him with her head down, nervously wringing her hands. You've been my house a dozen times. Why are you suddenly so nervous? He asked. Lily timidly looked up at him. Your parents don't know we're engaged, do they? What if they don't approve? It was a common reaction when something unbelievably good happened. The more intense the happiness, the more one worried about losing it, fretting over things that might never happen. In fact, ever since Lucas proposed, she'd had recurring nightmares that it was all a dream, that even them being together was a dream, and she'd wake up in a panic. Only in the last few days had she started to feel secure. So, even though Emily had always been kind to her, she couldn't help but feel a knot of anxiety. Lucas listened and snorted. This silly dork was worrying for nothing. You silly frog, do you really not know what that get-out-of-jail-free card my mom gave me for my birthday was for? Don't approve? You think those two aren't already planning on staying home to babysit their grandkids after this trip? He couldn't reveal his mom's true intentions, of course, so he just grinned mischievously. You can ask them yourself in a minute. Lily pursed her lips and said nothing more, shrinking into the corner of the elevator. Soon, the elevator stopped. They walked out and stood before the front door. Remember to call her Mom when you go in, Lucas whispered in her ear. Lily, who had been taking deep breaths, froze. We're not married yet. That's not right. So silly. Don't you know how to seal the deal? Lucas said with mock seriousness. We're just waiting for the license. It's going to happen sooner or later. Trust me. The second you see her, just call her Mom. My mom's a softie. She'll accept you as her daughter-in-law on the spot. Seeing Lily look thoughtful, Lucas bit his lip to keep from laughing and knocked on the door. Emily opened it. The moment she saw them, her face lit up, her gaze on Lily even warmer than usual. Mom, Lucas called out. Hey, come on in. Lucas led Lily into the entryway, then gave her hand a squeeze and jerked his chin toward Emily, signaling for her to do the same. Lily bit her lip and turned to her future mother-in-law. Emily watched as her mouth opened and closed repeatedly, her face turning beet red, but not a single sound came out. What's with this silly girl? Is something wrong, Lily? Emily asked, curious about her strange behavior. No, nothing. Lily waved her hands frantically and stood awkwardly next to Lucas as he changed his shoes. Robert, who had been on the sofa the whole time, watched them for a moment before turning his attention back to the TV, where Emma was playing Elden Ring. Thanks to Emma's intel, he and Emily already knew about the proposal. It was just a shame their little informant had gotten the location wrong and couldn't get a video. Putting two and two together, it wasn't hard to guess what Lily had been trying to do. All he could say was that his little brat of a son was a real piece of work. The girl had already accepted his proposal. She was practically his wife, and he was still teasing her. Robert smirked. If he'd pulled a stunt like that on Emily when they were young, he would have been in for it. Did you two just get back this afternoon? Lily asked as she sat down. Emily handed them both a slice of watermelon. We did. Here, look at the pictures I took. I don't want a slice. I want to eat it with a spoon, Lucas grumbled. You and your quirks. There's a whole one in the kitchen. Go cut it yourself, Emily said, rolling her eyes. She spread the developed photos on the coffee table and pulled her future daughter-in-law closer to look at them. Lucas returned from the kitchen with half a watermelon and left the two of them to bond, quietly listening as he ate. He glanced at the pictures on the table. The Potala Palace, Arai Lake, the Forbidden City. Wait, did I map those? No, I adapted a cross-country trip. These specific locations need American equivalents. The pictures on the table were of the Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, the Lincoln Memorial. His parents really had gone all over. What a pair of empty nesters. You should have Lucas take you sometime. There were so many young women there in beautiful historical-style dresses. I bet you'd look even better than them. Lily nodded obediently. Okay. As they chatted and laughed, Emily found herself liking this girl more and more. If Robert hadn't stopped her, she would have asked them when they were planning to get married. She remembered when Lily first came to their house, her bangs so long, sitting on the sofa with her head down, wringing her hands, too shy to say a word. She was still just as sweet, but so much more adorable now. Lily, you'll be a junior this year, right? That's right. Are you thinking about grad school? The girl lowered her head, her voice soft with embarrassment. Probably not. Emily smiled, even more pleased. You're doing so well with your art now. You're already making more than most people with a master's degree. And with what Lucas earns, neither of you really needs to. Lucas, sitting nearby, silently devouring his watermelon, couldn't help but sigh internally. This poor, silly dork. She's asking about your 5-year plan, and you still don't see the writing on the wall. He was suddenly very grateful that they were already planning on getting their license as soon as they could. Otherwise, he could only imagine the nagging they'd be in for. When people had too much free time, they got ideas. Remembering their conversation in the elevator, he shot Lily a meaningful look, mouthing the words, "Ask her now." Lily, who had been keeping an eye on him, noticed immediately. Her expression turned pained, her eyes pleading with him. "You do it, please." Lucas put on a look of feigned terror, glancing at Emily before mouthing back, "I'm too scared." He quickly turned away, hiding his expression. Lily thought he must feel a little guilty. She had no choice. If Lucas was too afraid, then she would have to be the one to ask. A marriage was only truly complete and happy when both sets of parents approved. If she wanted to marry Lucas, it was her responsibility to earn his parents' blessing. It wouldn't be fair to leave it all up to him. With that thought, Lily sat up straight. "Mr. Carter, Mrs. Carter." She had summoned all her courage, but her voice was still barely a whisper. Robert and Emily turned their full attention to her, waiting patiently. Emma, who had been silently gaming, turned around as well. "What is it, dear?" Emily asked gently. All eyes on her, Lily was so nervous she could barely speak, but she clutched the hem of her shirt and managed to say, her voice trembling, I want to have Lucas marry me. Is that okay?" Cough, cough. Lucas choked, nearly aspirating a mouthful of watermelon. Emily was completely floored. "Have Lucas marry you?" She repeated the phrase in her mind several times, her brain kicking into overdrive. Did she mean she wanted Lucas to marry into her family? But that didn't seem like something Lily would even consider. Was it Sophia's idea? But she wasn't the type to care about things like that, either. "You'd prefer for Lucas to join your family?" Emily asked, completely baffled. The more she thought about it, the less sense it made. "Huh? No, that's not it," Lily said, looking just as bewildered, a hint of disbelief in her eyes. It took her a moment to realize what she'd said. No, I wanted to ask if I could marry into your family," she explained hastily, her voice rising with panic, completely unaware that in her fluster, she'd gotten it wrong again. There were 4 other people in the room. At least 3 of their brains short-circuited on the spot. "Sis, if you marry him, I don't think that's called marrying in, Emma finally chimed in, breaking the silence. Lily immediately ducked her head, her face so hot it felt like steam was about to pour from her ears. She had originally planned to say she wanted Lucas to marry her, but then decided that sounded wrong. So she tried to say she wanted to marry Lucas. In her nervousness, the two phrases had gotten mashed together. Seeing his girlfriend's brain had completely overloaded, Lucas quickly stepped in to smooth things over. Mom, I'm planning on marrying Lily. I already proposed a little while ago. It took Emily a few seconds to process this. She turned to Lily. So, when are you planning on getting the license? We already proposed. As soon as we can, we will, Lucas said casually. I wasn't asking you. Emily gently took Lily's hand, noticing it felt even more delicate than it had last year. Lily, what are your plans? It wasn't that she was biased against her own son, but everyone knew Lucas was a sly one. He wasn't about to let himself get taken advantage of. So, as long as Lily wasn't getting bullied, that was all the fairness she could ask for. She didn't want her need to meddle in anything else. Lily's head was still bowed low, her voice barely audible but incredibly firm. As soon as we can. Emily was speechless. Well, these two were already a united front before they were even married. Her son, he really didn't require any nagging, did he? As she was marveling at this, she noticed Lily's beautiful, clear eyes looking up at her, filled with sincerity. The stubborn girl was still waiting for an answer. Even though Lucas had instigated this with his teasing, Lily, being who she was asking with complete seriousness. You silly child. You asked me the same thing when you first started dating Lucas, didn't you? You were afraid we wouldn't approve then, and now that you're getting married, you're still afraid. Emily trailed off, lost in thought for a moment. She reached out and cupped Lily's face. Are you that scared we don't like you? Maybe because she herself had a more fiery personality, this girl truly was more insecure than she had ever been. Lily didn't speak, just lowered her eyes, a bittersweet smile playing on her lips. It was a mix of joy and something sadder. After a moment, she gave a soft hum. What she was really afraid of was not being able to be with Lucas. But she was too shy to say that. To be honest, I wasn't entirely on board at first. You were so quiet. You wouldn't say a word. You seemed too fragile, Robert said suddenly. He was immediately rewarded with a sharp twist to the soft flesh at his waist. In front of the kids, Robert suppressed a yelp and said through gritted teeth, let me finish. Only then did Emily release her grip. Robert cleared his throat. But I later realized that you only look fragile. You're stronger than I thought, and smarter too. Many people equate being quiet with being kind, but that's not always the case. Quiet doesn't equal kind, and kind doesn't necessarily mean weak. This girl was a kind and gentle soul, but she was far from dull. Her spirit could keep pace with Lucas's. She wasn't some obedient machine. Dad, if you approve, just say so. Why do you have to be so roundabout? Even though his father meant well, Lucas found his words grating. Seeing that Lily was still staring blankly at his parents, not seeming to understand, Emily couldn't help but smile and pull her into a hug. Silly girl, you've been my daughter-in-law for a long time now. In Emily's embrace, Lily blinked, and blinked again. A film of water clouded her vision. A single, crystalline tear clung to the corner of her eye, refusing to fall. Lucas, watching from the side, let out a sigh of relief. He wasn't an idiot. He noticed Lily waking up from nightmares and clinging to him these past few weeks. That's why he had pushed her to ask them herself, to learn to seek her own reassurance. Now, the weight that had been sitting on her heart should finally be lifted. Last time, Lucas and Robert had cooked. This time, it was Emily and Lily's turn. After dinner, they helped clear the table. Lucas rubbed his stomach and prepared to head home with Lily. Drive safe, Emily called out as she wiped down the table. We will. Downstairs, the evening wind raised goosebumps on Lucas's arms. Before he could say anything, Lily was already pulling his jacket tighter around him. If you had called her mom back there, I think my mom would have burst into tears on the spot, Lucas said with a soft laugh. I couldn't do it. She really had tried. Lucas smiled and took her hand, looking up at the single star visible in the night sky. Wait till the wedding, then. It was past 10 by the time they got home. Lily wasn't ready for bed yet. She sat cross-legged on the sofa, watching anime on Lucas's laptop. She'd been getting more and more commissions for fan art, and she couldn't afford another embarrassing incident where she didn't even know the characters. Besides, she was starting to find she actually enjoyed it, especially the series from around 2009. You should get some sleep, Lucas said, poking his head out from the bedroom where he'd been resting. Lily hugged her knees and shrank back into the sofa. Sleep? Were those words really coming out of Lucas Carter's mouth? Who knew if he meant actual sleep or something else? After careful consideration, Lily obediently went to the bedroom. There, laid out on the bed, was a Chong Sam-style dress, the white one she had bought when Emma was taking her finals. "Why'd you get my dress out?" she asked, curious. Lucas was honest. "I want to see you in it, but it's so late. Who says you can't wear it at night?" That night, the air was thick with a floral scent that lingered long after the storm in the bedroom had passed. The house was quiet, the only sound the chirping of cicadas outside the window. Lucas lay lazily in bed, one arm around Lily, inhaling the fragrance from the crook of her neck. Lily was curled up in his arms, her cheek resting on his chest, her eyes closed. After a moment, feeling a chill from the air conditioner, she stealthily pulled the blanket up a little higher. "See? That dress wasn't for nothing, was it?" Lucas whispered cheekily in her ear. Lily was a shy person, but for him, she was always willing to be bold. Otherwise, that whole incident with his study materials never would have happened. Plus, the dork had a natural allure. She was clumsy at flirting, but loved to try, which somehow made her even more irresistible. Lily's cheeks puffed out. She wanted to headbutt him, but she was too tired. No energy. "Do you want to go stay with your mom for a while this summer? Or should I bring her here?" Lucas asked suddenly. He hadn't mentioned it since Sophia moved back to her hometown, but it was always on his mind. He couldn't be selfish and keep Lily all to himself. Sophia was still all alone. Lily thought for a moment. Mom probably wouldn't want to stay in Seattle. I should probably go back for a bit. If Sophia had been comfortable in the city, she wouldn't have wanted to move back in the first place. As she spoke, she hugged Lucas even tighter, completely forgetting her earlier impulse to headbutt him. "I'll miss you so much," she mumbled. She had been thinking about it since finals were approaching, but she didn't know how to bring it up with him. She felt a little bad, and deep down, a little reluctant to leave. Her feelings were a complicated mess. "You can go when I'm busiest. That way, it's a win for you, since you'd just be sitting at home waiting for me anyway. Why are you always so thoughtful?" "Because you're a dork, of course," Lucas said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "You're so goofy, so as your fiancé, it's my job to think ahead. Give me back my moment of feeling touched." That summer was even busier than usual for both of them. With Vanessa's pregnancy progressing, Jason was often unable to come into the office for days at a time. So, Lucas spent the entire month of July working on the proposal for their new game, or, to put it more bluntly, crafting a pitch so enticing that investors would drool. After another month of market research and endless meetings, the direction for the new game was finally set, an anime-style, 3D open-world mobile game. The main gameplay would feature a single-player main story, supplemented by online multiplayer dungeons that could be tackled solo or with a team. Teaming up wouldn't be mandatory. Players who prefer to go it alone could still clear content and post videos of their achievements to show off. He still remembered the thrill of finally getting the Whisper of the Worm in Destiny 2. Even though that game had been run into the ground by its publisher, Lucas believed the core gameplay model was a success. The hardest, most rewarding raids required voice comms and coordination. The sense of accomplishment after clearing one of those was immense, and the cooperative element satisfied players' social needs. For a mobile game, social features were key. High social engagement meant high player retention. Countless people played games just because their friends did. After the game's public launch, they would release new single-player story content and co-op dungeons with every update. But where Destiny 2 relied on a variety of weapons with different perks, his game would focus on characters and their signature weapons. Some would be free, some earned through clearing dungeons, and then there were the gacha characters, the real moneymaker. Never underestimate how much a dedicated fan would spend to get their favorite character. Of course, Polaris Interactive wasn't nearly big enough to develop a game of this scale. But Lucas had only made a token appearance at a campus job fair, hiring a few bright-eyed students who were thrilled just to get an internship. He wasn't actively recruiting. He was waiting to pick at the scraps of Montgomery Holdings. Once their gaming division went under, he could absorb their studio, instantly doubling the size of his company. With that kind of manpower and his polished game proposal, he could attract a much larger pool of investment capital than he could now. The plan was perfect. Lily was just as busy. The two game companies she had contracts with were both running summer events, and each had commissioned a piece of promotional art from her. She spent the entire month painting, dark circles appearing under her eyes. By August, she was finally done. Lucas drove her out to her mother's place. September 6th. It was raining in Seattle again. Ryan Brooks, with nothing better to do, had arranged for a get-together. The drizzle outside made the barbecue restaurant feel even cozier. The rain wasn't heavy enough to warrant an umbrella. Ryan sat down, wiped his hair with a napkin, and realized Jason was the only one there. "Where's Lucas?" He went to his mother-in-law's to pick up his wife. Ryan found the phrasing odd. Did they have a fight? Do you really think those two could get into a fight? Jason snorted. She just wanted to stay with her mom for a while. He waved over a waiter to order. They had a rule from their college days. Whoever invites, orders. Ryan didn't argue, just took the menu. No split pots, let's just get the spicy beef tallow base. 3 plates of fatty beef, 1 plate of chuck flap, some tripe, romaine lettuce. After rattling off a long list, he added, and a 6-pack of Bud Light. Technically, you were supposed to drink liquor with this kind of food. Beer filled you up too fast. But with just the two of them, beer would have to do. You're drinking by yourself. I can't drink, Jason said suddenly, putting down his phone. Oh, never mind then. Just get us a bottle of juice, Ryan said. He scratched his head, looking at Jason in disbelief. You quit drinking too? His bewilderment was genuine. Back in college, Jason had sworn every oath under the sun to quit smoking, but had never managed it. His nicotine and alcohol addictions were worse than the rest of their dorm combined. And now, he didn't smoke or drink. He was like a completely different person. Jason waved a hand. Can't. The wife's pregnant. The smell of alcohol makes her sick. A few months ago, in her first trimester, she was sneaking ice cream from the freezer in the middle of the night. Now, another 4 months later, even walking a few steps was a struggle. Pregnancy was no joke. She must be due soon, Ryan mused, calculating the months in his head. The due date is in January, Jason replied. He had planned this dinner as a little break while his mom was in town helping out. Damn it, why did this guy have to bring it up? Now he was getting nervous all over again. September already. In a few more months, he'd actually be a dad. The price of one careless night was fatherhood at 24. He opened his phone's photo album and showed Ryan the pictures. See, I've already bought all the clothes and toys. Ryan swiped through the photos, noticing most of the clothes were pink. You're sure it's a girl? Don't know. Then why'd you buy so many girls' clothes? Jason quickly fished some overcooked meat from the pot. Girls' clothes are cute, all pink and frilly. If it's a boy, you can expect him to be the one pulling your plug someday, Ryan said, exasperated. Kids don't remember anything. Do you remember what you wore when you were a few months old? Ryan thought about it. He had a point. Besides, I bought some of this stuff months ago, Jason said with a wry smile. Back then, even though I told Vanessa we were keeping the baby, I wasn't really ready for the responsibility. Then one day I was just wandering around and ended up outside a baby store. I saw all the little clothes and toys, and I just started crying out of nowhere. His anticipation for this new life had finally overcome all his fear. Ryan picked up the bottle of orange juice and filled Jason's glass, then raised his own. Cheers to that. The two men solemnly clinked their juice glasses and took a drink. Ryan put his glass down and smiled. Lucas is definitely getting married within the next couple of years. If you really do have a daughter, their kids won't be far apart in age. They might even end up together. Jason's sentimental expression immediately soured. Don't say that. An ominous feeling crept into Jason's heart. Actually, it'd be best if you both had daughters, Ryan said with a wicked grin. Then I'll have a son, and he can grow up surrounded by 2 beautiful older girls. Jason and Vanessa's daughter was bound to be cute, and as for Lucas's, with a mother that gorgeous, he couldn't even imagine. The more Ryan thought about it, the more excited he got. This was the ultimate protagonist origin story. Fine by me, Jason shot back with a smile of his own. Have you decided which one of our families your son will be marrying into? Damn it, forget it. I don't want her daughters anymore. Ha ha ha. After a moment, the smile faded from Jason's face. How do we get old enough to be talking about kids? He wondered aloud. Ryan touched the colorful woven bracelet on his wrist and sighed deeply. Time just speeds up after graduation. We'll be 24 in a few months. You just wait. Once you hit 25, the years will fly by. I'll let them. We were all a mess in college, but I guess we're all finally getting our acts together. Actually, Lucas was the most normal one. I was just stubbornly playing the fool, and he was just used to being good to that person. Ryan thought for a moment. Think about it. In all the years we've known him, how many people has he ever let get the better of him? Seeing Ryan fiddling with the bracelet, Jason finally had to ask, where'd you get that thing? Damn it. He suspected the guy had been waiting for him to ask, fidgeting with it ever since he sat down. Oh, this. Ryan grinned. My girlfriend made it for me. She bought the string online and braided it herself. Jason's hand tightened around his glass, veins popping on his knuckles. He could have sworn he heard his teeth grinding. Why did these two unmarried losers love to show off in front of him, a married man? He suddenly wished Lucas, the master of flexing, were there. Lucas would have put this jerk in his place. Thinking of Lucas gave Jason an idea. He crossed his legs and said nonchalantly, must be nice getting gifts from your girlfriend. You're telling me Vanessa's never given you anything? Jason just smiled. Vanessa is my wife, not my girlfriend. Ryan was speechless. Seeing the look on Ryan's face, like he'd just swallowed something foul, Jason burst out laughing. He had to thank Lucas for pulling that move on him the other day. Now he could use it himself. He'd almost let this punk get one over on him. I'm exhausted. Back at the apartment, Lucas didn't even bother with the suitcase, just flopped onto the sofa sideways. Lily dragged the suitcase from the entryway into the living room and sat down beside him, gently kneading his shoulders. You get sleepy so easily. You should have slept in a little longer before coming to get me, she said softly. Lucas's eyebrow twitched. I was afraid you'd be missing me so much you couldn't sleep. Shameless. Am I wrong? Lily turned her head away, unwilling to admit it, but knowing he was right. No. A moment later, his phone buzzed. Lucas pulled it out and glanced at his bank account balance, a small smile playing on his lips. The few $100,000 he'd saved, plus the few $100,000 he'd extorted from William Montgomery, had all been poured back into the company. When Jason had first roped him into this, he'd talked about becoming the James Cameron of the domestic game industry. Well, now he'd done it. Cameron had risked everything to make his movies, and now Lucas had invested every penny he had, aside from his car and house, into development. Game development wasn't a one-and-done expense, of course. But if the leader didn't go all in from the start, why would any investor believe in him? As for his savings, he wasn't worried. Savings were for family emergencies anyway. Lucas had it all figured out. If something came up, he still had the condo at Maple Creek Estates. If selling that couldn't solve the problem, then more money probably wouldn't have helped either. This move was necessary for Polaris right now. No one wants to go into battle with a spectator. Only when he truly cut off his own retreat, rather than watching from the sidelines, would the investors believe he was serious, and his employees would feel like they were all in it together. Okay, that feeling was probably an illusion. But to make this work, he had no other choice. You can't play it safe when you're betting the farm. Your boyfriend is officially broke, Lucas said, his eyes still closed. He sat up, then immediately fell sideways again, resting his head in Lily's lap. Be my sugar mama, Lily. Okay, Lily agreed cheerfully, running her fingers through his hair. But first, we need to set some ground rules. Ground rules? Lucas was stunned. Wow. So this was what it was like to have no economic power in the relationship. You're a spendthrift. Of course we need ground rules. Otherwise, you'll spend all our money and we'll. And Dottie. We'll all be out on the street, Lily said very seriously. Dottie, who had been napping on the coffee table, perked up at the sound of her name. Was it finally her time to shine? To lead her two-legged companions through a life of dumpster diving? She looked down at her paws. She wasn't a little kitten anymore. She could totally take on those stray cats that used to bully her. Unfortunately, her two-legged companions were unaware of her ambitious plans, nor did they have any intention of eating out of the trash. Lily cleared her throat, mimicking Lucas's usual serious tone. Rule number 1, no more spending money on drones or fireworks for me. Then, she held up a second finger. Rule number 2, if you want to spend more than $200 at once, you have to run it by me. And rule number 3, from now on, I'm the breadwinner in this family, so you're not allowed to bully me, Lily said, looking quite proud of herself. Lucas looked up at her, curious. When do I ever bully you? You bully me when you call me silly, Lily pouted. Otherwise, she'd have to go to class, come home to draw for work, do housework, and put up with his teasing. If he bullied her on top of all that, she'd be so pathetic. Lucas found this amusing. Fine, he huffed. I agree. The girl couldn't help but smile. She pulled a bank card from her purse. She was about to hand it to him, but then had a better idea. Mimicking a rich woman in a TV drama, she playfully tapped the card against his cheek a couple of times. Wow, that was surprisingly satisfying. So this was what it felt like to be a sugar mama. Okay, here, Lily said with a grin. What's this? Lucas asked, looking at the card, even though it was obvious. Weren't they just setting ground rules? Why was she giving him money now? It's a bank card. The girl's hand trembled slightly. She bit her lip and forced herself to look away, reluctantly pressing the card into his hand. It has the $15,000 I saved up for our wed for our. You know, Lily stopped talking. You have a lot of expenses with client dinners and everything. Just use it, and remember our rules. Do you have any money left for yourself? Lucas asked quickly. He had a sneaking suspicion she'd just given him her entire life savings. Lily looked down, counting on her fingers for a moment. I have our living expenses for this month on my payment app. Groceries and stuff. It should last until my next commission check comes in. While Lucas was still processing this, the girl slowly stood up from the sofa and walked over to the wall calendar, tapping at the dates with her finger. Being busy did have its perks. It made time seem to fly by. After a moment, she turned and smiled at him. 32 more days. Lucas, of course, knew what she was counting down to. He chuckled, stretched, and got ready to head out. On second thought, he tucked the bank card she'd given him into his pocket. Seeing her so happy, he couldn't bring himself to tell her he'd already set aside some money for their living expenses. He'd just pretend that money didn't exist. "I have something tonight, so I won't be home for dinner," he said as he put on his shoes at the door. "A dinner with clients?" Lucas turned and wiggled the bank card. More like an extortion attempt. The afternoon sun beat down relentlessly. Lucas sat in his car, idly spinning the bank card Lily had given him between his fingers. After a moment, a smile crept onto his face. $15,000 for a wedding fund. It was absurd. He couldn't believe this silly dork had managed to save that much. It just went to show that Lily had her own quiet stubbornness, her own brand of strength. She wasn't like other girls who had parents to help them prepare for marriage. But she didn't just passively accept his support, either. She chose to earn it herself with her own two hands. And then, just like any other girl, she would properly marry the person she wanted to marry. She wasn't lacking in any way. "What's so funny, boss?" Leo Jenkins asked from the passenger seat. "What?" "I'm about to get married. Can't I smile?" Lucas shot him a look and went back to studying the card as if it were a masterpiece. Jason wasn't this giddy before his wedding. "Oh, right, that was a shotgun wedding. Different situation." Lucas let out a series of villainous chuckles. "You should hurry up and get a girlfriend. But first, you'd have to actually find someone you like." This guy was probably destined to spend his life with his fictional characters. Leo stared out the window. A couple of cars were circling the parking lot, looking for a spot. "I do have someone I like," he said quietly. Lucas froze, glancing over at him. "For real? You never said anything." "None of you ever asked," Leo said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Everyone at the company seemed to have it drilled into their heads that he was a workaholic nerd who only cared about fictional characters. They treated him like some kind of asexual freak. He never even got a chance to explain. He couldn't just grab a megaphone and shout, "I'm a normal person. I like real, three-dimensional girls, too." They'd probably fire him on the spot. "Well, if you like her, go after her." "Why? If you like someone, do you have to be with them? You're not some kind of aspiring tragic hero, are you?" "No, she's single," Leo said, still staring out the window. "I just think she's like a cloud floating in the sky. Free, carefree, with no worries, always thinking about where to drift next. If my presence would change who she is, then I'd rather just watch from a distance." "My bad. I didn't realize you were so profound." Everyone had their own view on love, Lucas supposed. If Lily or Jason heard that, their brains would probably short-circuit. He didn't get it, but he respected it. He wanted his own life to be filled with traces of Lily, and he was sure she felt the same. "What if you miss your chance? Aren't you afraid you'll regret it?" Lucas couldn't help asking after a moment. "If I never planned on being with her, how could I miss a chance?" "You're hopeless," Lucas said, giving up. They chatted idly until they got a call from Veronica Vance's secretary. They waited a few more minutes before getting out of the car. Standing in front of the building, Lucas looked up at the towering skyscraper, at the four massive characters spelling out Aura Capital. For a company focused on finance and investment, to have such an impressive headquarters spoke volumes. They weren't just a big deal in Seattle. They were probably one of the top firms in the country. "We're on their turf today." "Nervous?" Lucas asked. The other companies they'd met with were small enough that they had sent people to Polaris. This was different. This was the big leagues. And Veronica Vance seemed to be giving him a lot of face. The smaller firms had sent junior analysts. This time, they were meeting the CEO herself. "My mental state doesn't affect my performance. I've given this presentation so many times I could do it in my sleep," Leo said, wiping his glasses with a tissue before putting them back on. "So no, I'm not nervous." "I am," Lucas said with a small smile. "Why?" It was the first time Leo had ever heard Lucas admit to being nervous. He had always been convinced that, aside from Lily, no one in the world could crack Lucas's psychological defenses. "The first year our company started, she came to the university to meet with me. She's not going to be easy to deal with." Lucas took a couple of deep breaths, then walked into the lobby as if he didn't have a care in the world. It'd be nice if Polaris could have a building like this someday. Dozens of floors. "It's so impressive," Leo whispered as he hurried to catch up. He'd be willing to wait decades for that. "We're just a game company." "It's not that easy," Lucas said with a breezy smile. "And the market is already carved up. Maybe if I could go back in time 20 years and be a reincarnator, I'd have a shot." The fact that Polaris had gotten this far was a combination of good luck and his own tireless efforts. Leo found Lucas's nonchalance increasingly strange. With his abilities, Lucas could have made a fortune in any other industry. Why did he himself seem more invested in this than Lucas did? Once Polaris is stable, you could always pivot. As long as you don't shut down the game division, I'll follow you to the end, Leo suggested seriously. He used to just hope Lucas would help him achieve his dream. Now that he knew him better, he felt like running a game company was almost beneath Lucas's potential. Nah, Lucas said with a meaningful sigh, a smile playing on his lips. For this life, I'm just going to see this one through with Jason. Mr. Carter, this is the conference room, the secretary said, bowing slightly as she opened the door for them. As they entered, they saw a dozen or so people sitting around a long conference table. Some looked bored, some thoughtful, but most were silently sizing him up. He returned the favor. In the head seat was Veronica Vance, the woman he'd met once in the provost's office. The man sitting next to her looked vaguely familiar. When their eyes met, the man froze. Lucas froze, too. It was the father of the little girl Lily had rescued. Stephen Junn's internal turmoil was far greater than Lucas's. Realizing this was the legendary founder of Polaris Interactive, he was too embarrassed to meet his gaze. No wonder the man hadn't blinked at a $30,000 check. He had always known about Lucas Carter, of course, but he could never have connected the name with the laid-back young man in pajamas who had bickered with his friend in front of two police officers. He suddenly felt a wave of awkwardness. A man this young, with this much potential. To say his future was bright was an understatement. Never mind 30,000. In a few years, he probably wouldn't even glance at 300,000. And he had offered it like some kind of charity, thinking he was giving him a life-changing sum of money. You two know each other? Veronica Vance asked, a curious eyebrow raised. Sort of. My daughter was almost taken by a human trafficker, and his girlfriend was the one who saved her, Stephen Jun said, too embarrassed to mention the $30,000. Knowing Ms. Vance, she'd probably tease him about it until the day he retired. The more he thought about it, the redder his face got. Thank God he wasn't a snob who would have said something like, how could such a beautiful girl marry a poor guy who lives in a rental? He would have been the classic, face-slapped idiot antagonist. Thank you for seeing me, Ms. Vance, Lucas said, breaking the silence as he took his designated seat. My daughter is practically your age. Don't call me Ms. Vance, Veronica said with a dismissive wave, though her expression was pleased. I remember you telling me you hoped we'd have a chance to work together someday, Lucas said with a smile. The other board members exchanged looks, suddenly suspecting the two were closer than they appeared. I do remember that. I just didn't expect it to be so soon. Lucas let out a theatrical sigh. I didn't expect to get beaten black and blue by the real world so quickly and have to come begging for your help. A few scattered chuckles echoed through the room. Leo, sitting next to Lucas, was stunned. This was the most impressive conference room he had ever seen. The people sitting around the table, especially Veronica Vance, all looked like sharks. And yet, Lucas had walked in, all smiles and jokes, and had somehow managed to disarm them. But pleasantries were just pleasantries. No one was going to invest millions of dollars just because they had a nice chat. Lucas knew this well. After a few more minutes of banter, he let Leo take the floor with the presentation. The guy hadn't been exaggerating. He had given the pitch so many times that the whole thing was flawless. After Leo finished laying out the game concept and development plan, it was Lucas's turn to answer questions. Veronica Vance remained silent, her hands clasped together, until the very end. Then, she simply gave Stephen Jun a look. Stephen nodded and asked in a gentle voice, Mr. Carter, how much are you looking for? Lucas thought for a moment. Given our estimated development cycle of at least 2 years, we're hoping for an investment of $5 million from your firm. Mr. Carter, it's good for a young man to be ambitious, but you can't bite off more than you can chew, a portly middle-aged man said. His tone was a mixture of condescension and self-importance, as if he were doing Lucas a huge favor by gracing him with his advice. Actually, it wasn't as if his arrogance was written all over his face. Lucas understood what he was getting at. Was Polaris Interactive really big enough to handle that kind of investment? Wouldn't they be like lottery winners who had no idea how to spend their newfound wealth? The money is what it is. I have the people, Lucas said. You have a way to recruit that many qualified people at once? You're talking about at least doubling your current size. Veronica Vance finally asked her first question, clearly intrigued. I do, Lucas said with a slight nod. Within 2 months, I can double the size of Polaris. You can reconsider our appetite then. All right, Veronica said, a note of admiration in her voice. Then that's all for today. Lucas didn't press further. He had never expected to close a deal of this magnitude in one meeting. He had sized up Veronica Vance during their first encounter. She was personable on the surface, but her bottom line was always business. Getting a follow-up meeting was the best possible outcome. He stood to leave, and was surprised when Veronica Vance stood up as well. A moment later, a ripple of whispers went through the previously silent room. Ms. Vance is seeing him out personally, so they really do know each other. But just as the speculation started, Veronica walked back into the room. It seemed she had only escorted him to the elevator. "You're being far too autocratic these days," the portly board member said the moment she sat down. Veronica was silent for a moment. "It seems these last few years of peace have made you all lose your instincts as investors." The room fell silent. Everyone either looked down or forced a neutral expression, sensing the shift in her tone. Her eyes were calm, but her lips were curved into a smile as she surveyed the room. When no one spoke, she continued, "If you actually look at Polaris Interactive's track record since its founding, you'll find that this young man is very interesting. Setting aside the current market conditions, for him to build a company from scratch and release 2 hit casual games, what does that tell you about his market sense? And Montgomery Holdings, for all its impending doom, is still a behemoth. For him to compete with them on the same track and still be standing. And another thing, Polaris only dropped their lawsuit a few days before the court date. Doesn't that strike any of you as odd? Did any of you bother to look into it? Or were you all too busy watching horse races and soccer games overseas?" In a way, she had Montgomery Holdings to thank. They had done her due diligence for her, testing whether Polaris was worth her investment. All that was left was for her to determine if their product was a market fit. And yet, these people couldn't even see that. Aura Capital was long past its empire-building phase. These people had gotten soft. "Let's do this. We'll put to a vote," Veronica said lightly. "If the majority is in favor, I'll invest the full $5 million. If not, I'll invest too." She swept her smiling gaze across the room again, as if to say, "You may be board members, but I hope you all know who's really in charge here." Stephen Jun waited a moment, and after seeing a few hands go up, he slowly raised his own. Veronica glanced at him. "Stephen, you don't have to vote." "Why not? You know him. Your vote doesn't count." A sly smile touched her lips. "And of course, neither does mine." The final tally was a 7-7 tie. The outcome now rested on whether Lucas could deliver on his promise. Veronica seemed pleased with the deadlock. She declared the meeting adjourned and was the first to leave. "Why aren't you angry anymore?" Stephen Jin asked, following her out. "This result tells me there might still be some people in that room who use their brains. They want to test the kid further before making a final decision," Veronica explained patiently. "In investing, the fence-sitters are always the smartest." Stephen silently prayed for Lucas. If the young man had let Veronica's friendly attitude make him complacent, he might have just missed his chance. Just then, Veronica sighed. "I really do like that kid. It's a shame. A shame you can't get him to work for you. A shame he already has a girlfriend. My daughter is still single." Stephen Jun said nothing. He wasn't about to touch that topic. Instead, he asked, "You value him that much? What if it's another 7-7 tie next time?" Veronica looked completely unconcerned. "I can make it 7-6. Feeling the heat, rookie? We're only in our 20s. We've still got a lot to learn." Back in the car, Lucas Carter teased Leo Jenkins with a grin. Leo, who had sworn up and down that he wasn't nervous, was sitting bolt upright in the passenger's seat, his entire body wound tight as a spring. Just as Lucas was about to say more, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was his sister, Emma. "Hello. What are you doing calling me? Aren't you supposed to be suffering through freshman orientation?" he asked, his tone less than friendly. The only time she ever called him was when she was cooking up some scheme. He figured she was probably angling for a forged doctor's note to get out of some grueling team-building exercise. If she even dared to ask, he'd report her straight to their mom, Emily. He still hadn't forgotten her stint as a double agent. "Bro, my advisor wants to invite you to speak at our class meeting," Emma said, her voice dripping with sincerity. "A rising star of entrepreneurship from the University of Washington. All my classmates are dying to learn from you." Damn, he had underestimated the sheer audacity of this girl. "Get lost," Lucas shot back, his lip twitching. "You just want to use me to flex on your class. Emma, do you have conscience? Do you know how busy I've been? And you want me to waste my time just so you can show off?" On a normal, boring day, he might have actually agreed. But lately, he'd been run ragged. The thought of playing the supporting role in Emma's personal highlight reel was infuriating. Emma didn't seem bothered in the slightest. She giggled, then lowered her voice to a whisper. "Come on, bro, I know you love me. Just put me on speakerphone and say you're too busy. It'll have the same effect." She was his sister, after all. Lucas sighed and recited the lines she'd fed him. He'd been planning to ask Leo to have the student union guys look out for Emma, but now he saw there was no need. A harsh new social environment? For Emma Carter, it was just her natural habitat. Out on the UW quad, Emma's new friend sighed dramatically. It's a shame that Senior from the accounting department is still around. Otherwise, I feel like you would have been crowned the campus queen this year. It was the first time since she'd enrolled that the UW Confessions page had a clear, undisputed winner for the most talked-about freshman, and it wasn't Emma. Whatever, Emma said with a huge yawn. She has such a great attitude, Ivy Yin thought to herself. Her brother was handsome and rich, and she was gorgeous. Ivy couldn't even imagine how amazing Emma's next 4 years were going to be. At that moment, the freshmen had just finished a long, boring orientation drill and were sitting in scattered groups on the grass chatting. They were all naturally curious about the university that would be their home for the next 4 years. After talking about their hometowns and video games, the conversation inevitably turned to the hot upperclassmen on campus. Thanks to the few words of Emma's phone call that everyone had overheard, combined with the current topic, most of the class was now staring at her. Their gazes were a mixture of shock and, for a select few, a healthy dose of envy. A normal person might have been satisfied with that level of flexing and called it a day. But Emma Carter was not a normal person. She was Lucas Carter's sister, and she'd learned from the best. She knew exactly how to play the game. She scratched her head. I forgot to bring water. I brought some. It's right over there. You can have mine, Ivy offered generously. There's a whole afternoon to go before dinner. That's not nearly enough for both of us, Emma said, looking thoughtfully into the distance. I'll just have my sister-in-law bring me some. She should be getting out of class soon. During the next break, an instructor stood nearby, so the students' chatter was much quieter. But the relative peace didn't last long. A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. Dude, I wasn't lying, was I? I saw her this morning. Is any girl you've been talking about even in the same league as her? Just look, don't touch. I heard she doesn't even talk to strangers. Only one girl in her entire major has her on WhatsApp. The goddess they were all whispering about, the one they lamented was completely unapproachable, suddenly apologized to the instructor and began walking gracefully toward the center of their group. It wasn't just their class. Half the quad turned to watch. She scanned the crowd, her expression a little timid, until her eyes landed on Emma. Then she broke into a series of quick, delicate steps and hurried over. Here, Lily said, holding out a bottle. Watermelon juice. I just went home and made it for you. In a single afternoon, Emma Carter had made sure most of the freshman class knew exactly who she was. That evening, after delivering the juice, Lily didn't go straight home. She and Aaron went to the mall. Lucas isn't home? Aaron asked, her eyes scanning the racks of clothes. If Lucas was home, you two lovebirds would be. Otherwise occupied. You wouldn't have time to call me for dinner. Lily pretended not to hear. Do you want bubble tea? My treat, she said softly. Don't think you can buy my silence with bubble tea. I'm not that easy. Oomph. This girl was ditching her friends for a boy. She deserved to be called out. Coconut jelly, right? Lily asked, completely in her own world. Yes, and 70% sugar. Aaron nodded enthusiastically. A few minutes later, Lily returned from the counter with a single cup. Aaron blinked, checking again. Yep, just one. Are they still making yours? Nope, I just bought one. You're not having any? I'm on a diet, Lily said seriously, her gaze slowly drifting away. I've gained weight recently, haven't you noticed? Money was tight at home right now. Every dollar counted. She was the family's breadwinner now, and she had to be responsible. As for why she was at the mall if she was trying to save money, well, window shopping was a free form of entertainment. Aaron chewed on her straw, circling Lily and studying her from every angle. She was about to say she hadn't noticed anything when a thought struck her. She pointed an accusatory finger. Spill it. Did Lucas? You know, make them bigger. Finding a place to eat was never a problem for the two of them. They had endless ways of finding good food and avoiding tourist traps. They had a hearty dinner at a cozy little Italian place, and then watched the musical fountain show at the Seattle Center before heading their separate ways, which really just meant waving goodbye from across the courtyard of their apartment complex. They were, after all, still neighbors. When Lily opened her apartment door, the living room was dark. She flipped on the light and found Lucas sitting motionless on the sofa, cradling Dottie, lost in thought. It was rare to see him waiting for her like this. Why didn't you turn on a light? She set down the leftovers she'd brought back and gently stroked his cheek. Dottie, ever perceptive, hopped off his lap, making way for the other big cat in the house. I was thinking. I forgot, Lucas said simply. He looked up at her. Were you out with Aaron? MHM. She wanted me to help her pick out some clothes. Lily flopped onto the sofa. I'm exhausted. That girl can walk for miles. Lucas shifted closer, his hands finding her shoulders and beginning to knead the tense muscles. Lily let out a contented sigh, thinking to herself, so this is what it feels like to be the breadwinner. Lucas suddenly choked on his own spit. What's wrong? Nothing, he said quickly. It was all those insane internet memes. He couldn't even hear the word breadwinner anymore without his mind going to weird places. A little lower on my back, please. Thank you, Lily mumbled, burying her face in her arms. Of course, anything else for my dear wifey. Lucas was exhausted from his own day, but he was happy to play along. Don't think you can get away with that just by adding wifey to it, Lily grumbled, but she couldn't hide the smile tugging at her lips. You might want to wipe that grin off your face. It's about to reach your ears, Lucas teased. Huh? Oh. A moment later, while Lucas was still dutifully massaging her back, she sat up, her expression suddenly serious. Lucas, I want to learn watercolor painting. Is that okay? He blinked, confused. Why wouldn't it be okay? Well, it might cost some money to get started, and I'd probably have a big easel set up in the house, and the paints might have a smell. I don't care, but isn't that hard to make a living with? Is it just a hobby? Lily nodded, nervously fiddling with her fingers. Anything related to art. I want to do it all. It had started as a casual interest, a way to pass the time. Then people told her she had a gift, and she started making money from it. And now, she had fallen completely in love with the act of creating itself. I never knew my wife was such an art geek, Lucas said with a warm smile. What are you smiling about? I'm smiling because you've finally found something you want to do just for you. Lucas pulled her into his arms, his hand resting on her stomach. It was soft and smooth, flat and perfect. Stroking it was unbelievably calming. Like a cat being petted, Lily closed her eyes, content, letting his hand move gently over her abdomen. You really like touching my stomach, don't you? It's comforting. And you said it yourself, didn't you? That all of you belongs to me. What? Is your stomach off limits now? I didn't say that, she whispered. A moment later, she took his hand and pressed it firmly against her lower belly, holding it there. Lucas was about to ask what she was doing when she leaned in close to his ear, her voice a soft, sultry whisper. Someday, this will be where our baby grows. Lucas felt his heart stop. Someday, this will be where our baby grows. The words hit Lucas like a bullet, piercing straight through his heart. The culprit who'd fired the shot immediately buried her face in his chest, playing ostrich. Lucas didn't know if any man on earth could withstand a line like that. He certainly couldn't. He felt his heartbeat accelerate, a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Looking at Lily's blushing face, her flat, soft stomach suddenly felt different under his hand, charged with a new significance. His gaze drifted down to where his hand rested. The thought that one day, right there, their baby, his and Lily's, would begin to grow sent an indescribable feeling through him. A boy or a girl? He used to tease Jason relentlessly for becoming a dad so young, but now, a flicker of envy ignited within him. Lily, do you know what you just did? She slowly lifted her head, her clear, beautiful eyes filled with confusion. He leaned in, his lips brushing against her ear as he whispered back, teasing me like that is a good way to get pregnant before the wedding. The next second, the ostrich in his arms transformed into a startled deer and bolted. As the bedroom door clicked shut, Lucas quietly reached up to touch his own cheek. It was burning. It was 8 o'clock. The sweltering heat of the day had finally begun to fade, leaving a pleasant summer evening in its wake, punctuated only by the chirping of crickets outside the window. That was the one downside of living in an older building. Since they had both eaten out, their evening fell into a comfortable, lazy rhythm. A little while later, Lily emerged from the bathroom, towel drying her hair, and sat down at her computer to draw. When she was working, she was like a different person. Her expression was focused and serious, all traces of her usual dorky persona gone. It was enough to make him want to call her ma'am and ask her to step on him. Even after all this time together, Lucas was still amazed by her self-discipline. She took her role as the one supporting the family very seriously. With nothing else to do, Lucas pulled up a chair and sat beside her. In the past 6 months, her subscriber count on Twitch had tripled, now sitting at 340,000. More followers meant more sponsorship offers, but the most significant change was her streaming revenue. Besides a few top-tier subscribers, she had over 200 regular monthly subs. This was the part Lucas could never figure out. He hadn't acted as her stream's designated talker in months. She streamed on a whim, never used a microphone, and did nothing but draw or play games. Yet her fans were relentlessly loyal, treating her chat like their personal clubhouse. From the very first stream, an absurd dynamic had formed. She would draw her thing, and they would chat about their thing. Some people even used the stream as a background for studying, leaving comments like they were checking into a virtual study hall. Over time, this bizarrely chill atmosphere attracted a crowd of trolls and comedians just looking for a good time. Someone would just have to type, "You're right, but Genshin is trash," and the chat would explode. The Art of Trolling 101. Provocation and Counter-Provocation. A masterclass in internet phishing. These people had the internet completely figured out. "You're not busy tonight?" Lily asked, glancing over at him. "Nope. You go ahead and make money to support the family. I'll just sit here and keep you company." A secret, satisfied smile touched her lips before she turned her attention back to the screen. Remembering how he had teased her earlier, she pouted and said in a mock serious tone, "Hey, watch your tone when you're talking to the breadwinner of this family." "I'm the breadwinner," Lucas retorted, holding back a laugh. It was already September, and their wedding date was getting closer. The issue of a house began to weigh on him. Seeing that Lily was focused on her drawing, he picked up his phone and sent a message to Jason. "Lucas, how much did you spend on your house?" Jason, "Around $1 million, I think." "Thinking of being my neighbor?" Lucas, "Damn, there's no way I can afford that right now." Jason, "Look, Vanessa and I were talking. Those first 2 games are still bringing in some cash each month, right? Why don't you take my share of the profits? Add that to your own, and you should have enough for a down payment in 6 months or so. Pay me back when you can, or don't. It doesn't feel right for us to be getting married with all this money while you poured everything you earned back into the company." "Lucas, we'll see. You better have actually talked to Vanessa about this, or she's going to hang you up by your thumbs." Winky face. On the other side of the screen, just as Jason was about to reply that it was a joint decision, he felt a sudden chill on his neck. He looked down. The back of the ceramic knife Vanessa had been using to cut an apple was pressed firmly against his skin. Even though it was the dull side, he couldn't help but swallow hard. "Tell him I'm very gentle with you, and I never hit you," Vanessa said, chewing on an apple slice, her eyes fixed on the TV, her face a perfect mask of indifference. Jason. This woman's heart was pure evil. "Damn it. Why is everything so expensive?" Lucas muttered, scrolling through real estate listings in Jason's neighborhood. Lily leaned over, curious. When she saw he was looking at houses, her confusion grew. "Do you prefer a house or a condo?" Lucas asked. "Why are we suddenly looking at houses?" Lily didn't even know what a condo was. "We're getting married next month. We need a new place. I bought the apartment at Maple Creek Estates for your mom. She's getting older. She can't stay in her old town forever." The furnishing in that apartment was basic, and he'd never intended for it to be their marital home. Besides, a 2-bedroom was a little small. He knew his parents, Robert and Emily, would give him the money in a heartbeat, but they'd worked so hard to raise him. Asking them for a house just so he could get married felt wrong. "Do we have the money for a house right now?" "No, that's what I'm trying to figure out." The timing was terrible. The company needed every cent to grow, and it just had to happen right when he was about to get married. Lily blinked her wide, innocent eyes and pointed at the floor. "We could just keep living here." "We could, but this is a rental, and it's kind of old. Does the county clerk's office refuse to give you a license if you don't own a house?" she asked softly. For the first time, Lucas was speechless. This dork had never cared about any of that stuff. He was the one who was trapped by convention. After a moment, a smile spread across his face. He pulled her close. "I know you don't care, but whether you care or not has nothing to do with whether I buy a house. I can't know that you have low expectations for me and then just get comfortable with not trying. What kind of jerk does that?" "You're so silly," Lily murmured, resting her head on his shoulder and closing her eyes. He was always calling her as stubborn as a mule, but he was just as bad. He was the real mule. Just then, Lucas pressed a soft kiss in her hair. "I'm so lucky." She slowly opened her eyes. "Lucky? Yeah. Let me ask you something. If I had no house, no car, and we really had to live here for years, would you still marry me?" "Of course. But you have no idea how many women see a house and a car as the absolute bare minimum for a husband. Even for guys who've only been working for a few years," Lucas explained patiently. "It's not even a requirement anymore. It's the passing grade. No house, no car, and you can't even get a date." That was why he felt so lucky. Lucky that he had some talent, and even luckier that he had a girlfriend like Lily. It was a gift from heaven. Lily was pondering his words when she noticed the chat on her screen flying by, asking why she had stopped drawing. "Did my stream freeze? Why isn't the screen moving?" "Don't worry if it froze, mine did too." "Huawei doesn't freeze. Where did Lillipad go? She hasn't drawn anything in forever." Seeing the questions, she turned back to her keyboard and, using her customary 2-finger typing style, slowly tapped out a single line. "Talking with my boyfriend about our future house." It was the last day of the fall break. Because Jason and Leo were still amateurs at manipulation, Lucas's plan took a while to come to fruition. It wasn't until October 7th that Lee Young personally delivered the evidence. Lucas didn't ask how Lee had gotten his hands on something so crucial, and he didn't care. The man had managed to leak their company's internal data without a trace. It stood to reason he could betray someone else just as easily. That morning, with the evidence in hand, Lucas paid a special visit to Professor Yin's house. This should be enough to give Montgomery Holdings a serious headache, right? Professor Yin set down his teacup, glanced at Lucas, and took the manila envelope, beginning to read through the documents. As he read, he reached for his reading glasses. Lucas sat quietly, waiting. Someone sent me a box of pastries. They're in the kitchen. Help yourself, the professor said after a moment of silence. Lucas shook his head. Every time I come over, you stuff me with food. I'm going to get fat. Even though he knew they were high-end pastries, too much of a good thing was still too much. Professor Yin's white eyebrows shot up. You call this fat? When I was your age, we had classes during the day and worked the fields at night. A body like yours wouldn't have lasted a week. The old man went on, lecturing him like a grandson. Lucas let go in one ear and out the other. Then, his eyes landed on a watch sitting on a coffee table. It was a beautiful timepiece. How about you give me this instead? Take it, just take it. Professor Yin grumbled, waving a dismissive hand. A few minutes later, as Lucas was admiring the watch, the sharp slap of the folder hitting the coffee table made him jump. The professor's face was grim as he let out a long breath. This is more than enough. How could he dare to evade this much in taxes? The company was about to go under. I doubt they were thinking about much else, Lucas said, unsurprised by the professor's reaction. He'd seen the documents already. It wasn't just financial issues. There were other, less savory details that were almost certainly true. These parasites, taking government subsidies with one hand and dodging taxes with the other. Professor E muttered, then turned to Lucas. I don't care how you got this. Leave it with me. Lucas understood immediately. You're really going to help me take him down? He asked, a hint of disbelief in his voice. He had originally planned to have William Montgomery handle it himself, but this was even better. Professor Ian was far more suited for this kind of work. Though the old man rarely got involved in anything, when he decided to take someone out, he did it without getting his hands dirty. Don't be so shameless. I'm doing this for the country, not for you. Right, Lucas agreed with a grin. What's so right about it? Professor Ian grumbled, grabbing the folder as if to hit him with it. Lucas blocked the blow with his hand, revealing the ring on his finger. Bring your girlfriend over for dinner sometime, the professor said, his voice softening as he put the folder down. Some of the young women these days were. Well, he ought to vet this one for the boy's sake. You got it. I'm heading out, Lucas said cheerfully, grabbing the box of pastries on his way out. He left the watch. The old man wouldn't say it, but the pain of parting with it was written in every wrinkle on his face. The new project wouldn't kick off until they had officially merged with the Montgomery Holdings game studio. So with time on his hands, Lucas headed home. Lily's birthday was tomorrow. He needed to order a cake on the way. Now, read the question again very carefully. He walked in the door to find Lily at the dining table, patiently tutoring a little girl on her homework. Who's here? He asked, bending down to change his shoes. Lucas. Maya. Chun leaped from her chair and ran toward him. Finally, her big brother was home. Her new aunt was nice, but she made her do homework. Hey, what are you doing here? Lucas ruffled the little girl's hair, which was as soft as Jell-O. He was surprised by how much she'd grown. Kids shot up so fast these days. He hadn't seen her in about 6 months, and she seemed at least 4 inches taller. My parents were watching her, but they took Emma back to our hometown for a visit today. So they dropped Maya off here before they left, Lily explained softly. For some reason, Emma had pitched a fit and demanded to stay too, but their mother had dragged her away, reasoning that Lily couldn't possibly handle 3 hyperactive kids on her own. Lily still hadn't figured out who the third kid was supposed to be. Lucas. Hey, that's my hometown too. How come nobody asked if I want to go? Not that he would have, but it was the principle of the thing. He felt left out. You have things to do tomorrow, Lily mumbled, turning away as a faint blush crept up her neck and onto her earlobes. Lucas froze for a second, then a goofy grin spread across his face. It was so wide that Maya took a few tentative steps back, but her aversion to homework was stronger than her fear, so she clung to Lucas's side. We sat on the sofa. She sat right next to him. Maya, come on. You need to finish your work, Lily called out after a moment. Lucas's grin widened. It was just a normal sentence, but hearing it from her felt incredibly satisfying. Maybe because Maya was so young, being with the two of them felt like a trial run at being parents. He was about to enjoy the show when Maya wrapped her arms around his, her big eyes welling up with tears as she looked at him pleadingly. "Lucas, I want to go swimming." Her voice trembled with unshed tears. "I've been asking Mom and Dad since summer started, and they still haven't taken me." The sight of a tear trickling down her cheek made his heart melt. "Okay," he said seriously, "I'll take you." As he spoke, his eyes involuntarily darted toward Lily. His mind was already racing with schemes to get her into a swimsuit. Maya was instantly overjoyed and jumped up to get her shoes. But she couldn't move. She looked back to see Lucas holding her arm, his expression unreadable. Then he smiled at her. "After you finish your homework." Seeing her hesitation, he added, "I'd get it done quickly if I were you. The sooner you finish, the more time you'll have to play at the pool." After weighing her options, Maya pouted and trudged back to Lily's side. She had yet to learn that all the tricks she was trying were old news to her cousin Emma. A while later, bored out his mind, Lucas got up and walked over to see what they were doing. Lily was still patiently helping Maya. He had no idea where she got her endless supply of patience. "John has a box of oranges. If he eats 2 a day, he will have 46 left over when the planned number of days is up. If he eats 4 a day, he will be short 6 oranges. How many oranges does John have? And what was the planned number of days?" "This one's easy. You just set up an equation with X," Lucas said, leaning over their shoulders. Maya stared at him blankly. After a moment, she asked, "What's X?" "You haven't learned that yet." Maya shook her head. "You have to teach her the non-algebra way." "She's not there yet," Lily whispered. "Without an equation." Lucas picked up the worksheet, stared at it for a few seconds, then put it back down with a straight face. "I'll teach you in a minute. I have to use the bathroom first." Once inside, Lucas pulled out his phone and started Googling. This was ridiculous. He was forgetting elementary school math. He had no idea how to solve it without algebra. And who wrote these insane problems, anyway? Maya was too honest. Emma would have just said, "Why can't John just count the damn oranges?" He remembered other classics, like the one where 2 people leave their houses at the same time and you have to calculate their speeds to see if they meet at an intersection. The people who wrote these things should have been screenwriters for melodramas. By noon, the sun was high in the sky. Even though it was October, it was still warm. Maya finally finished her homework and started clamoring to go swimming. "You should take her," Lily said, walking over to Lucas and looking down at the floor. "You should come too. I can teach you how to swim. But I'd have to wear a swimsuit. You don't want other people to see?" Lily fiddled with her fingers and nodded shyly. "That's easy." Lucas waved a dismissive hand. "We'll just book the whole place for the afternoon." Lily felt like she was about to faint. Booking an entire swimming pool. How much money would she have to make to support this man? We made a deal to save money." She mumbled miserably. "Did I say I was spending our money?" "Huh." Lily made a sound that wasn't particularly intelligent. Not our money. After all this time together, she knew that phrase meant only one thing. Who was her boyfriend about to scam this time? It can't be me, right? I only have like $600 in my account." As Lily was frantically calculating her net worth, Lucas took her hands in his. He gave her a wicked grin and whispered, "Just go. You'll see when we get there." Seeing her standing there with her mouth slightly agape, looking completely bewildered, Lucas didn't give her another second to think. He grabbed her hand and pulled her downstairs. There was a relatively high-end swimming club in their district, and they arrived just before noon. Lily and Maya obediently sat on a bench while Lucas went to talk to the receptionist. "Hello, sir. If you'd like to swim, I recommend a membership. We have a special promotion right now," the young woman said cheerfully. "No membership. I'm booking the place out." Lucas coolly slid a business card across the counter, then shot a smile back at Lily. The receptionist froze. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" "I'm booking the whole pool. Corporate team-building event." Lucas coolly slid a business card across the counter, then shot a smile back at Lily. The receptionist, clearly out of her depth, stammered for a moment before rushing off to call her boss. The owner, a man of vision, was too far away to come in person, but spoke to Lucas directly over the phone. Since they couldn't just kick paying customers out, Lucas booked the pool for the afternoon, starting at noon instead of the usual 2 p.m., a small concession for a private booking. With that settled, Lucas sat on a lobby couch and typed a message into his company's group chat. "Lucas, afternoon off starting at 2 p.m. If you want to relax, go home. If not, come for a team-building event. At everyone. Lucas, I booked a swimming pool. Chloe, yay. How do we have the best boss ever?" Just as he'd expected, with Tower of Ascension and Regenesis mostly running themselves, the team had been getting bored with their downtime. The news was met with a wave of excitement. He deliberately waited, watching the endless stream of yay scroll by until everyone was hyped up. Only then did he type his next message. "Lucas, I I just remembered I'm broke. Maybe we should cancel the time off. We can go swimming after I get my cash flow sorted out. Aaron. After letting them stew in their disappointment for a few minutes, Lucas finally saw the message he'd been waiting for. Chloe, I really want the afternoon off. What if we all chip in? If we split it, it'll cost less than taking an unpaid day, and anyone who wants it can still go swimming. Aaron, I suspect this scumbag boss has some kind of evil plan. Leo, the programming team has been working hard. Let's take the afternoon off. I'll put in 500. Afraid Leo would start overthinking and concocting some grand conspiracy, Lucas quickly interjected. No need to put in that much. Not many people go swimming on a weekday. Even booking the whole place isn't that expensive. The promise of a day off and a pool party was already intoxicating, but hearing it wouldn't be expensive sealed the deal. Within minutes, they had raised enough money to cover the booking fee. Watching them celebrate in the chat, a smug grin spread across Lucas's face. Team building was just a cover. He was selling them their own vacation time. He got a free private pool party. His employees got a fun afternoon off. It was a win-win. Since he told them the break started at 2, he and Lily just had to leave with Maya before then. Maya was a kid. She'd be bored after a couple of hours anyway. Lily, who had witnessed the entire process of him pulling a pool out of thin air, sat beside him in stunned silence. Lucas, you're truly a terrible person, she said, her voice full of awe. His mind was a labyrinth of deceit. No wonder she fell for his tricks every single time. What do you mean, terrible? Lucas protested, holding up his phone as evidence. Look how happy they are. Perhaps because they were VIPs who had booked the entire facility, the club let them each pick out a swimsuit for free. Lily and Maya took longer to choose, so Lucas changed first and waited by the poolside. It was so much easier for guys. All you needed was a pair of trunks. He was trying to remember the last time he'd gone swimming when a nearby door opened. He turned to see Maya run out, hugging a flow tie, followed closely by Lily. She was wearing an off-white, one-piece skirt-style swimsuit. The hem of the skirt barely reached her upper thighs. Above, the cut revealed her delicate collarbones and the faint, alluring curve of her chest. When she turned to help Maya with her swim cap, Lucas saw that the back was a large, open cutout, exposing the smooth, pale skin and the graceful line of her spine. A thin cord was tied in a neat bow at the small of her back. Every guy has their own weird little thing, and for some reason, that simple bow nearly sent Lucas's soul flying out of his body. With Maya right there, he couldn't keep staring. He reluctantly tore his eyes away and fixed his gaze on the serene blue water of the pool. He tried to calm his racing heart, only to realize with a jolt that after just a few months, his Hamlet soliloquy had lost all its power. He had betrayed the soliloquy, and now it had betrayed him. While Lucas was struggling to maintain his composure, Lily shyly approached him. Is it okay? She asked, one hand gripping the opposite arm. Her face turned away, her voice as quiet as a whisper. It's beautiful, Lucas answered, the word escaping him automatically. Lily seemed to let out a breath of relief. You were quiet for so long. I was quiet because I was stunned, he said honestly. I thought you'd pick something really conservative. Even though her swimsuit was a one-piece, its design was anything but modest. It had taken a monumental effort for him to look away. Well, you're the only one who's going to see it, Lily mumbled, her lips pressed together. So, as long as you like it, that's all that matters. Maya looked back and forth between them, utterly confused. Lucas, can you swim? She asked. Of course. I almost drowned in a pool when I was a kid, so I learned how. Maya stared at the deep end with a newfound sense of reverence. But she was a Carter, after all. 2 seconds later, she was yelling. Teach me, Lucas. I want to learn too, Lily added, looking at him earnestly. Coach Carter's time is limited. I can't teach everyone, Lucas said, waving a hand at Lily, a clear signal that he wanted something in return. Even though Maya was still blinking in confusion, Lily understood his implication immediately. She puffed out her cheeks in an angry little huff. Did he really think that, when it came to him, she had no boundaries at all? Even if it was just calling him by a silly name? If she kept giving in, how much would he tease her in the future? But Lucas just stood there, waiting, her mind filled with images of him teaching Maya while she could only watch from the sidelines. The thought alone was enough to make her want to cry. She took 2 steps forward, stood on her tiptoes, and whispered in his ear, Please, coach, teach me. Satisfied, Lucas broke into an unstoppable, goofy grin. All right, let's get you two to the shallow end. He turned to go, but felt a small finger poke his side. It was Maya. Lucas, your nose is bleeding. He touched under his nose. Sure enough, his fingers came away red. I've just been a little overheated lately, he said casually. It had to be the heat. After all, it wasn't like he hadn't seen everything there was to see already. He couldn't possibly be this worked up over a swimsuit. He was a perfect gentleman. Lily, realizing she was the cause, blushed furiously and quickly led Maya away to the kiddie pool. After Lucas had cleaned himself up and returned, he found Lily and Maya splashing around in the children's area, where the water barely came up to her knees. Even in the shallowest part of the pool, Lily never strayed from Maya's side, watching her with intense focus. Lucas sat on a deck chair, watching them for a moment before picking up his phone. He needed someone to take care of this little third wheel. It was cramping his style. Lucas, want to come swimming right now? Aaron, have you finally decided to make a move on me? I'm telling Lily. Lucas, my wife is literally right next to me. You don't need to tell her anything. Lucas rolled his eyes. This girl was so dramatic. Annoyed, he added another message. And for the record, you never have to worry about that. I'd be afraid of starving our children. Aaron, you wait right there. I'm coming over to kill you right now. Lucas, hurry up. The organization needs you. I'll even give you a 2-hour head start on your day off. Aaron, but I'm not even at the office. Aaron retracted a message. Aaron, all a misunderstanding. If the organization needs me, then I am duty-bound to answer the call. On her way over, Aaron had been trying to guess what kind of wingman duty her scumbag boss had cooked up for her this time. The moment she saw Maya, she knew something was wrong. You dragged me all the way out here to babysit for you two? Aaron stood at the edge of the pool, glaring daggers at Lucas. Do you have a conscience? She had the sudden, violent urge to kick him into the water. Lucas just gave her a deadpan look. I didn't dock your pay for skipping work today. Isn't that conscience enough? Uh-huh. So, you really don't have any money left? You used to be rolling in it, and now you can't even afford to book a pool. Lucas slowly shook his head. All his investments were for a bigger payoff down the road. The largest sum of cash I have to my name right now is the $15,000 Lily gave me. $15,000? Aaron's jaw nearly hit the floor. Are you serious? Of course I'm serious. The second my wife heard I was broke, she threw her debit card at my face. Didn't hesitate for a second. Aaron's smile faltered, a hint of bitterness creeping into her expression. But when she was out with me, she wouldn't even buy herself a $10 bubble tea. Are you serious? You know her better than I do, don't you? Lucas fell silent. A sudden, sharp pang hit his nose, and he stared at Lily's back like a statue, unable to speak for a long time. He racked his brain, but he couldn't recall even a flicker of hesitation when she'd given him her card. That dork was famously obsessed with money. He remembered the pain and reluctance written all over her face, how she'd had to turn away from the card just to let it go. But she had never hesitated. After a moment, he turned to Aaron, his voice feigning annoyance. Exactly. So hurry up and help with the kid. Don't interrupt our quality time. Do I get paid? Yes. What's your name? Aaron asked, bending down to smile at Maya. I'm Maya Chun. Maya, who was a little terror at home, became much quieter around strangers. This is my best friend, Lily explained softly to the little girl hiding behind her legs. Wanting to teach you how to swim. Maya didn't move. Aaron thought for a moment, then gestured for Maya to come closer for a secret. After a few whispered words, Maya trotted obediently behind her. Lucas watched, completely mystified. I thought you couldn't swim, he couldn't help but ask before they left. Back when we went fishing. That day Lily almost fell in. I could only stand there and watch. I started taking lessons after that, Aaron said nonchalantly. That's some serious initiative. Lucas gave her a thumbs up. With Maya entrusted to her new handler, Lucas finally had his chance for some alone time with Lily. It was the first time he'd ever seen a pool so empty. The vast, quiet space made the world feel huge. If he ignored the 2/3 wheels in the distance, it was as if he and Lily were the only two people left on Earth. They sat on the edge of the pool, chatting quietly. First time here? Lucas asked, his voice soft as he watched her profile. Ever since they'd met, he'd made it his mission to help her experience all sorts of new things. Lily nodded. What do you think? She dipped her toes in the water, sending ripples across the cool surface. It's fun. It's just a shame I can't swim. Before the words were even out of her mouth, Lucas slid into the water with a splash and held his arms out to her. So learn. Come on, I'll teach you. I'm scared. I've got you. Hearing that, she pushed herself back from the edge, then slowly stood up and walked back to the water. As if his words were a magic charm, she took a few deep breaths and jumped in. Before getting in, Lily had been clutching a floatie for dear life. Now, she was clinging to Lucas. Watching the floatie drift further and further away, Lucas felt a strange warmth spread through his chest. It was clear how much she trusted him. The water here was actually quite shallow. She could have easily stood on her own, but she kept her arms wrapped around his neck, clinging to him like an octopus. Lucas seized the opportunity and planted a kiss on her wet cheek. You're taking advantage of me, she sputtered, her eyes squeezed shut. If you don't let me, I'll let go. Then, you can kiss me. A sly grin spread across Lucas's face. I've changed my mind. You have to kiss me. He saw her take a sharp breath, then release her grip, sinking beneath the water with a gurgle. He was so shocked his eyes widened. The silly dork had actually found some backbone. Unfortunately, her defiance didn't last long. As soon as she was under, she panicked, accidentally opened her mouth, and began to flail. Lucas quickly moved to her side and lifted her back up. The water's not even up to your neck, he said with an exasperated laugh. She would have been fine if she'd just stood up. She coughed and sputtered in his arms. I don't know why, but I couldn't stand up. No wonder you hear stories about people drowning in the shallow end, Lucas thought. The human body has about the same density as water, he said gently. Just get used to the buoyancy. Don't be so tense, and it'll be easier to learn. And don't raise your hands so high like you just did. The higher your arms go, the faster you sink. Lily nodded thoughtfully. Then her expression turned to one of confusion. Lucas, I think I got water in my ears. She could hear her own voice and breathing in a weird, muffled way. Just tilt your head to the side and hop a few times. But I got water in both ears, she said seriously. If I tilt my head, won't the water from the other ear go into my brain? You don't need to worry about that. Why? Lily asked, sensing a hidden meaning in the way he emphasized the word you. Because, Lucas said, struggling to keep a straight face. Anyone who could ask a question like that probably already has more than just a little water in their head. Lily's cheeks puffed out, and she finally gave in, bumping her forehead against his. The next second, like a torpedoed battleship, Lucas slowly sank beneath the surface. Seeing this, Lily was instantly filled with regret. I'm sorry. Thankfully, the water was shallow enough for her to touch the bottom. She took a couple of steps forward, trying to check on him. Just as she got close, he suddenly wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her under with him. This time, she was ready. She squeezed her eyes shut, pinched her nose, and held her breath, sinking to the bottom with him. She slowly opened her eyes to see him grinning at her. She reached out her hand, and he took it, their fingers intertwining. Then, he made a goofy face at her. Lily couldn't help but giggle, forgetting for a moment that she was underwater. She promptly inhaled a large mouthful of pool water. By the end of the day, Lucas had failed to teach Lily how to tread water. But she'd had a lot of fun, so it wasn't a total loss. Late that night, the moon was bright, the stars faint. Lucas stood staring out the window at the dark, hazy night, a knot of anxiety tightening in his chest. The night before his SATs, he played a couple of rounds of League of Legends and passed out. He never thought he'd be the one losing sleep now. All this time, he'd been filled with anticipation. Now that the day was almost here, a new feeling had crept in, nervousness. Once the license was signed, they wouldn't be boyfriend and girlfriend anymore. They would be husband and wife. He would be responsible for their little family, for her future. He was ready for it, but he still felt like he hadn't done enough. He was about to sigh when he heard Lily's soft voice from beside him. Are you asleep? She whispered, her voice as gentle as the moonlight. No. Hearing this, she snuggled closer, wrapping her arms around him from behind. I can't sleep. What's wrong? He asked softly, turning to hold her in his arms. This dork usually fell asleep the second her head hit the pillow. I want to fall asleep faster so tomorrow comes sooner, but now I can't sleep, she murmured into his chest. Pathetic, Lucas said with a self-deprecating laugh. She looked up at him, her clear eyes like amber in the dim light. Are we really getting married? Of course. Are you having second thoughts? No way. Lily burrowed deeper into his embrace, rubbing her cheek against his chest. I want to marry you so much. Lucas inhaled the faint, sweet scent of her hair and smiled. I know. Go to sleep. When we wake up, we'll go get our license. The next morning, Lucas woke up before his alarm. He blinked at the sliver of light peeking through the curtains, then instinctively began fumbling around the bed for his phone. It was a universal truth that a person would rather spend a full minute searching blindly than simply sit up and look. After a moment, he found it. Not even 7 o'clock. He hadn't slept well and was about to roll over and cuddle with Lily when he realized she was already sitting on the edge of the bed, her hair neatly combed. She noticed he was awake and turned to him, her voice soft. I made you breakfast. Let's eat and go. Don't rush. We still have to go home and get our birth certificates. She looked down, fiddling with her fingers. I already got mine. Lucas wasn't surprised. I figured. I need to get mine. Lily seemed embarrassed. She turned away, giving him a view of her elegant back. I got yours too. Lucas. His brain short-circuited. Seriously? Who just gives himself away like this? Don't you have any self-respect? You were the most sought-after girl at UW. When did you get my birth certificate? He asked, once he had managed to reboot his brain. This morning, I went to your mom's and came back to make breakfast. Though he hadn't slept, Lucas had no desire to go back to bed. He rubbed his temples and dragged himself out of bed. This girl was always hitting him with sneak attacks. He was finally starting to understand the strange feeling that had been growing inside him as their relationship progressed. It always started with him, the master strategist, having the upper hand. Then Lily would make a seemingly bad move, followed by a series of blunders, and then somehow she would be the one declaring victory. It was bizarre. He sat at the dining table, still trying to pinpoint where his strategy went wrong. They were about to get married. It would be humiliating if he kept trying to tease his wife only to get played himself. Breakfast was duck blood and vermicelli soup with flatbreads, both homemade. Lily knew he liked the flavor of the duck blood, but not too much of it, so she'd used it sparingly. They both yawned their way through the meal, clear evidence of a restless night. These next few days are supposed to be lucky, so it'll probably be crowded, Lucas said, looking at his phone. We don't have an appointment. We should get there early to avoid a long wait. Lily considered this for a moment. I won't be the first ones there. Then I'll eat faster. Lucas was always happy to indulge her small requests. After breakfast, they scrambled to get dressed. They hadn't taken any official photos yet and were planning to have them done at the government office. Even though it was still early, their nerves made them rush. Lily wore the same pure white dress she'd worn when he proposed. It accentuated her figure, making her look elegant and slender. It was so much like a wedding dress that Lucas couldn't help but stare. It had been a good purchase. It would look beautiful in the photos. Sensing his gaze, Lily turned to him. We have to take pictures. Should I put on some makeup? She whispered. She looked around, then remembered she didn't own any. Well, there was that expensive imported set Vanessa had given her, but she'd never had the heart to use it. It was still in the cabinet somewhere. But even if she had the makeup, she didn't know how to apply it. For a moment, she was tempted to run over to Erin's and ask for help. Erin was a pro at makeup from all her years of going to Comic-Cons. Just then, Lucas emerged from the bedroom, shrugging on a white button-down shirt. You? Need makeup? Come on, let's go. He didn't even bother to hide his amusement, simply grabbing her hand and pulling her toward the door. Wait, I need to find Erin. With a slam, the door cut off her protest. Hand in hand, they were about to leave the building when they ran into Mrs. Gable, their neighbor, carrying 2 bags of groceries. The retired women in their building were a force of nature, waking up at the crack of dawn to walk to a distant market just to save a few dollars. Morning, Mrs. Gable. Oh, were you two off to so early, all dressed up? Mrs. Gable's eyes widened as she took in their formal attire. We're going to get our marriage license, Lucas announced with a grin. Mrs. Gable froze for a second. Then her wrinkled face broke into a radiant smile. It's about time you two got married. I was telling you to do it over the holidays. We weren't old enough then, Lucas said. He felt Lily squeeze his hand, a silent plea for him not to get stuck in a long conversation. The old woman seemed even more excited than they were. Go on, go on. Don't let me keep you. Make sure you invite me to the wedding. We will. As soon as they were done talking, Lily practically dragged Lucas down the rest of the stairs and out the door. He chuckled at the sight of her pulling him along. She was clearly more anxious than anyone. The county clerk's office was near Seattle General Hospital, less than a 20-minute drive. Lucas was feeling pretty smug. They were arriving an hour early. They were sure to be the first couple of the day. Then he got out of the car and saw the long line already snaking out the door. Most of the couples were holding hands, lost in their own worlds. A few stood awkwardly apart, and he wondered if they were there for a different reason. Didn't I see on the news that they live-streamed the office for a day, and almost no one showed up? Lucas couldn't believe his own foolishness. That probably wasn't a lucky day. Lily had seen that news story too. This is my fault. I got complacent. It's okay. Being first doesn't matter, Lily said, her smile unwavering. She squeezed his hand and stood on her tiptoes. As long as I get to marry you, that's all I care about. After a long wait, they finally completed the registration at a kiosk and sat down to wait for their number to be called. Their nervousness intensified. Lucas shifted restlessly on the hard metal bench, then saw Lily pull a small bag of candy out of her purse. What's that? Wedding candy. It's for the staff. Vanessa said it's a nice gesture and good luck. Lily explained it with such authority that Lucas was momentarily stunned. He had no idea this was a thing. Jason had certainly never mentioned it. That useless fool. How was he so much worse at being a wingman than Vanessa? How are you feeling? Lucas scooted closer to her, his mind still cursing Jason. After today, all your official documents are going to say married. Lily looked down, her heart pounding against her ribs. A little nervous. And happy. Happier than she had ever been. Just then, the number was called. The clerk was a young woman about their age. She beamed when Lily gave her the candy and cheerfully began processing their paperwork. I'll just need to see your IDs and birth certificates, please. She quickly verified Lucas's documents, then moved on to Lily's. As she was looking them over, she suddenly paused. I'm so sorry, but we can't process this today. What? Lily blinked, her voice tight with anxiety. Why not? Because today is your birthday. Legally, you're not considered 21 until the day after your birthday. The clerk's words hung in the air. Lily slowly turned to look at Lucas, her face a mask of disbelief. Lucas swallowed hard. Even though there was no accusation in her eyes, he felt a hot flush of embarrassment creep up his neck. Don't look at me. I've forgotten everything I ever learned in college. You can come back tomorrow. You'll have a lifetime together. One more day won't make a difference, the clerk said, trying to console them with a gentle smile. She was new to the job and had never seen a couple try to get married on the bride's actual birthday. She thought it was adorable. The ultimate ship. Once the reality of the situation sunk in, Lucas felt a wave of profound annoyance. I was a nervous wreck all night. I dragged myself out of bed at the crack of dawn. And you're telling me we can't get the license on her actual birthday? I was all hyped up, and now you want me to wait another day? What are you, one of those writers who lives for cliffhangers? But the law was the law. Defeated, Lucas took Lily's hand and led her out of the office. The clerk waved goodbye with a sympathetic smile, secretly disappointed that she wouldn't be the one to issue their license. She never expected to see them again the very next morning, the first couple in line. Someone's afraid his girlfriend is going to run away. She teased Lucas as she took their documents. With a girlfriend this amazing, wouldn't you be? Lucas smiled back. I had to drag her out of bed while she was still asleep. Beside him, Lily ducked her head, her cheeks flushing crimson. In reality, she was the one who had dragged him out of bed. Everything looks good today. Please sign here. Lily took the pen and carefully wrote her name, each stroke deliberate and perfect. It was the most important signature of her life. After they had confirmed all the information, all that was left was to print the certificates. If before it had all been anticipation and preparation, now, watching the machine print their marriage license, the reality finally hit her. She was married to the person she loved most in the world. Her heartbeat grew louder, a frantic rhythm that drowned out her own breathing. Lucas felt it too. He instinctively reached for her hand. He glanced over and saw her biting her lip, her eyes fixed on the printer, looking remarkably calm. But he could see the tears welling in her eyes. If you're going to cry, save it for the wedding, he whispered in her ear, his own voice betraying a slight tremor. A moment later, their marriage licenses were ready. Lily took them with both hands, her touch reverent, and immediately opened one. The image of their photo together, taken just moments before, swam before her eyes, blurred by a veil of tears that she could no longer hold back. Lucas forgot all about the license and gently wiped the tears from her cheeks. There's an optional vow ceremony. If you'd like to participate, the clerk offered softly. We're already here. Might as well, Lucas said. It felt a little awkward, but it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So, with Lily's eyes still glistening, the clerk led them to a small, quiet room. They stood shoulder to shoulder before the state flag, each holding a copy of the vows. The clerk would read a line, and they would repeat it. We willingly join in marriage. Their voices were in perfect, firm unison. They both stole a quick glance at each other before nervously continuing. From this day forward, we will share the responsibilities and duties of marriage. To honor our parents, to raise our children in love, to respect and love each other, to trust and encourage each other, to be patient and understanding, to comfort each other, and to love each other for all our lives. I, Lucas Carter, I, L. Lily Thompson. She stumbled just for a second. Lucas looked at her earnest, dorky expression and felt his heart tremble. The ceremony wasn't awkward at all. Instead, with every word, his heart seemed to beat in time with hers. As they recited the vows, memories flooded his mind, a torrent of moments, big and small. A smile naturally formed on his lips. That night, no, it went back even further, back to when they were kids. How could he have known that the quiet, withdrawn girl who never seemed to fit in would one day be his wife? Looking back, it was amazing how much they had already been through together. Trick you into being my wife with a $5 tube of burn cream. Any regrets? Lucas asked with a grin as they walked out of the building. He had really hit the jackpot. That tube of Neosporin deserved a place in a museum. You told me that night it was only a couple of bucks. You've been lying to me since the day we met. Even earlier. Back then, all I had was a bubble machine. Lily laughed through her tears, linking her arm through his as she continued to dab at her eyes. From now on, the day after my birthday is our wedding anniversary. She looked down at the license in her hands, her expression one of pure adoration. Lucas looked up at the sun. It was a beautiful day. So, when are we having the wedding? He wasn't in a rush, but he couldn't help but ask. The license was legal recognition. The wedding was social recognition, announcing their marriage to all their friends and family. Both were necessary to make it feel complete. Can we wait a little longer? Lily's voice grew quiet, as if she were afraid of disappointing him. Maybe early next year or after my junior year ends, when I don't have classes. Why? Lily turned away, too embarrassed to speak, but a blush was already creeping up her cheeks. Lucas had his suspicions, but he just said, "Sure, if you want to wait, we can wait." It was already October. Early next year, or even the end of her junior year, was only a little over 6 months away. A wedding was a huge undertaking. Finding a planner, picking a date, all of it took time. And besides, he wanted to have their house ready before the wedding. "Quick, take a picture and send it to your mom," Lucas said, deciding to focus on the more immediate task. Lily nodded and snapped a photo before sending it off. Sophia Thompson wasn't a big texter, so she called almost immediately. Lily chattered excitedly on the phone, while Lucas stood by awkwardly, only occasionally chiming in. He suddenly discovered he wasn't thick-skinned enough to call her mom just yet. After hanging up, a faint smile played on Sophia's lips. She sat back down on the sofa and picked up a picture frame from the coffee table. In the photo, a handsome, lean man looked out at her. "Honey, Lily's married," she said, her voice raspy but gentle. "Doesn't it feel like it happened so fast? I feel like it was just yesterday. Our little girl was standing on a stool, learning to cook. You were so worried about her before you left. See? You worried for nothing. Look how happy she is now. Even without us to help, our daughter grew up just fine. She was making her own money. She'd found a wonderful partner. She wasn't lacking anything compared to the girls who had both parents to dote on them." Sophia continued to speak, a silly grin on her face, until her words dissolved into quiet sobs. Instead of going home, they drove to Lucas's parents' house. When they walked in, his mother, Emily Carter, was mopping the floor, her long hair tied up in a practical bun, just as it had been for as long as he could remember. The familiar scene made him feel like a kid again. But on closer inspection, he could see the differences, the fine lines around his mother's eyes. No matter how beautiful a person was, time left its mark. Lucas took a deep breath, his throat suddenly tight. "Mom, I got married," he yelled, his eyes welling up. "You'd think you won the lottery," Emily Carter teased, but her face was beaming. Robert Carter emerged from his study at the sound of the shouting, a barely perceptible smile on his lips. "Come, sit down." As they settled on the sofa, Emily wondered why Lily hadn't greeted her with the usual ante, but she was too caught up in the joy of becoming a mother-in-law to dwell on it. She took Lily's hand, her smile widening. "Let me see the license." To think that the shy, quiet little girl was now her daughter-in-law. Lily nodded and retrieved the 2 small, red booklets from her bag, handing them over. "Have you told your mother yet?" Emily asked, her happiness growing with every passing second. Robert was dying to see them too, but he maintained his stoic facade, sitting quietly beside them. "Yes," Lily replied obediently. "So, when's the wedding?" Before Lily could answer, Lucas jumped in. "It's almost the end of the year, and it's getting cold. It'll have to be after the holidays." He knew his parents weren't petty, but it was better for him to be the one to deliver any news they might not like, even if it wasn't his idea. "That makes sense," Emily agreed. "But you should buy the house before then, right? Decorating and getting furniture all takes time. The company is at a critical stage right now. I don't have any spare cash," Lucas said, gesturing to Lily with his chin. "I'm still relying on my wife to support the family." Emily stared at him. This was how he was getting married? All her colleagues' sons had a house, a car, and a hefty sum for wedding expenses ready before they even proposed. And he had nothing? No, wait, he'd already sealed the deal. The license was signed. She glanced at Lily again. The silly girl looked perfectly happy. "Just because you don't have money doesn't mean your father and I don't. We can pay for it." Even though Lily hadn't asked for anything, Emily felt she couldn't let her be shortchanged. In fact, it made her want to spoil her even more. "I'm not taking your money," Lucas insisted. "I'm a grown man. I'm not asking my parents to pay for my wedding. We can give you the down payment, and You can pay us back when you're on your feet. At that, Lucas relented. He looked at the 2 red booklets in Lily's hands and had an idea. He took them, opened them up on the coffee table, and snapped a picture. For the second time since he'd helped Lily buy her electric scooter at the beginning of the year, Lucas Carter posted on his Facebook timeline. The caption was understated, a single sunglasses emoji. The picture was of the 2 marriage licenses. Dylan Cooper. Wait, you got married too? Damn you. Aaron Thompson. No, Lily, my Lily. I was here first. Lucas, you bastard. Leo Jenkins. Is that a White Album reference? William Montgomery. Congratulations. Thumbs_up. JPG. I want to post it too. Lily said. Her interest peaked. Lucas's mouth twitched. You have, what, 10 people on your friends list? Are you trying to twist a knife in Aaron's back? Lily paused for a moment, then said, then I'll post on my art stream. Lucas. He was about to lecture her on privacy, but then he remembered that his identity had been public for a while, and he was the founder of Polaris Interactive. They were basically living their lives online already. They didn't even need to blur their faces. He just wondered how many people would now have him on their assassination list. This is called going public, right? Doesn't it give you a sense of security? Lily whispered in his ear while their parents were chatting. Lucas was taken aback. He had just done it for fun. He hadn't realized she was thinking on that level. He chuckled at her unique way of thinking. You're right. Thank you. You're welcome. I'm your wife now. They chatted until noon. Then Emily and Lily went to the kitchen to cook. Lily washed some apples and brought them out. Wearing an apron, she radiated a gentle, intellectual warmth that was as refreshing as a spring breeze. Look how sweet my wife is, Lucas said, handing an apple to his father. So is mine. Lucas gave him a weak, sycophantic smile. Robert raised an eyebrow, his gaze shifting toward the kitchen. Are you going to argue with that? Lucas wouldn't dare. His attempt to show off had backfired spectacularly. He turned to the TV, where an episode of Friday Night Lights was playing. Coach Taylor was complaining about having to babysit his own brother's kid. He never understood how the characters in that show had so many children. The 2 men sat in silence, as they often did. So, you've invested everything in the project. How's it coming along? Robert finally asked. Everything's in place. I'm just waiting for William Montgomery's company to crash and burn so I can acquire his game studio. Robert was intrigued by his son's confidence. You're pinning your hopes on your opponent, making a mistake. Lucas shook his head. No mistake necessary. Montgomery Holdings is already dead. Why? I gave the evidence directly to Professor Ian, Lucas said nonchalantly, taking a bite of his apple. Throughout dinner, Robert was still trying to wrap his head around it. How had Lucas managed to persuade the old man, who hadn't gotten involved in anything for over a decade, to step in? But then he remembered that his own childhood friend's long-standing grudge was finally about to be resolved, and he let the matter rest. After dinner, Lucas planned to meet up with Ryan Brooks. Ryan had a relative who worked in game ratings and approvals. It was always good to grease the wheels in advance. When he learned that Ryan was at a nearby movie theater with his girlfriend, Lucas suggested a coffee shop in the area. But you have to talk about work. Is it okay for me to be there? Lily asked timidly. It's just my college roommate and his girlfriend. You've met them before, Lucas said casually. If Ryan were coming alone, it would be one thing. But if he was bringing his girlfriend, Lucas wasn't about to show up by himself. He wasn't going to let that jerk flex on him. Lucas could choose not to show off, but no one was allowed to show off in front of him. Just then, Ryan and Sophie arrived. The girl still had her short haircut, but it took Lucas a moment to place her. He'd only seen her a couple of times, once at the hospital with Ryan, and then at Jason's wedding. Sophie clearly remembered Lily and waved. Lily gave a shy wave back. My parents are in town. We all had lunch together, Ryan explained as he sat down, anticipating Lucas's question. Lucas was surprised. So soon? I'm a year older than you. I'll be 24 after the new year, Ryan sighed. Both our families think we're a good match, so we figured, why not get married? He then shot Lucas a smug grin. You better hurry up, or I'm going to beat you to the punch. So what if you propose first? Does that even count? Your girlfriend is only a junior. You can't get married yet. Ryan felt a surge of satisfaction, like he'd just won a 70-minute game of League. Jason was one thing, but he'd had to watch Lucas be smug for far too long. Now it was his turn. Soon, Lucas would be the last single man standing. It was the ultimate comeback. Lucas watched Ryan raise his eyebrows at him, then blinked slowly. Jason doesn't hold a grudge, so you can show off to him. But me? He took a slow breath, then turned to Lily. My lips are really dry. Do you have any lip balm? Lily had no idea why he would suddenly need lip balm in a coffee shop, but she answered automatically, it's in my bag. I'll get it. She was secretly terrified that he was going to ask her to apply it for him in public, with her mouth, as he often did. I'll get myself. Lucas took her bag, placed it on his lap, and began to search through it. "You have too much junk in here. I can't find it." He frowned, waving her away when she tried to help. He started taking things out of the bag one by one. Ryan watched, confused, as Lucas placed a power bank, a face mask, wet wipes, and a pair of headphones on the table. Then, without breaking stride, Lucas pulled out a small, red booklet. He placed it on the table with a deadpan expression and continued to search as if nothing had happened. "What is that?" Ryan asked, even though he had a sinking feeling he already knew. Lucas glanced up, then went back to his search. "Oh, that?" he said nonchalantly. "It's our marriage certificate. Yours, my wife's, and mine." Lucas packed everything back into the bag, the lip balm seemingly forgotten. "Ryan, you bastard. I thought you were actually looking for something, but you were just setting me up." He couldn't understand it. He had a girlfriend, he was getting married, and yet, somehow Lucas could still kick him like a stray dog on the street. Lily was frozen in place. Even she, in all her dorkiness, had figured it out. Lucas had never wanted a lip balm. "It's okay. You can't beat me to the punch, but you can still aim to have the shortest relationship in our dorm before getting married," Lucas offered, a picture of magnanimity. He had to admit, though, Ryan was moving fast. Lucas had thought he and Lily were quick, getting married after less than 2 years together. This was practically a flash marriage. But then he remembered that Sophie was a bit of a mama's girl, and that her mother had seemed incredibly controlling at the hospital. It all made sense. Sophie pointed at the marriage certificate, and when Lily nodded, she eagerly picked it up to look. Seeing Ryan fuming, Lucas couldn't help but laugh. "Relax. Save the gloating for Jason. He's an easier target. These guys were all the same. Just like Lily, all passion, no skill." Ryan glared at Lucas, then finally said, "You and Jason pick a time. I'll set up a dinner for you to meet my uncle." He hadn't forgotten the real reason for their meeting. "Is he easy to work with?" "He's family, and an old classmate of my dad's." That was all Lucas needed to hear. He dropped the subject. Half an hour later, as they were getting ready to leave, Sophie called out to Lily. Lily turned and saw Sophie holding up her phone. "We should exchange numbers. That way, they can't team up to lie to us." Lily, who usually believed whatever Lucas told her, found it hard to refuse. She nodded. Lucas shot Ryan a look dripping with sympathy. The poor guy was destined to be just as henpecked as Jason. Ryan pushed his glasses up his nose, a flicker of suicidal despair in his eyes. After parking the car in front of their building, Lucas leaned over to unbuckle Lily's seatbelt, a routine gesture. But she was looking at him, her cheeks flushed, her lips parted as if she were about to say something. "Oh, hon." Her voice was soft and sweet. Just as Lucas leaned in, full of anticipation, she abruptly turned away. "We're out of groceries. What do you want for dinner tonight?" "Do you think I'm an idiot?" Lucas exclaimed. Her attempts to change the subject were always so clumsy. Lily quickly unbuckled her seatbelt and made a break for it, but Lucas grabbed her arm and pulled her back. He advanced, and she retreated until her back was pressed against the car window. "You can't just cheat like that," Lucas said, his voice low. I'm too embarrassed. I can't say it. You said on my birthday. I had to work up the courage for a long time," she mumbled, covering her face with one hand. "Wifey." Lucas gently cupped her cheek. It was still soft and now warm to the touch. She managed, mustering the courage to at least acknowledge the title, just as she had at his parents' house. Lucas's mind went blank. All his mischievous plans evaporated. "We're really married," he murmured. Lily leaned in and gave him a soft peck on the lips. She said again. "We're really married," she whispered back. Lucas suddenly smiled. He didn't actually care about the title. If she could say honey easily, it would lose its power. It was her nervousness that made it so fun to tease her. It was a twisted thought, but it was true. That's just how people were. He decided he would try again tonight. The head of the household? Every night, he was the one who was thoroughly conquered. As they got out of the car, he suddenly remembered something. "Let's go out for a nice dinner to celebrate. I think a new steakhouse just opened up nearby." A candlelit dinner to celebrate their marriage. Perfect. But as soon as the words were out of his mouth, he saw Lily's eyes glisten. "We just got married, and you're already tired of my cooking?" she asked, her voice trembling. Dressed in her white gown, with that tearful, wounded expression, she looked utterly heartbreaking. "No, I love your cooking." Lucas backpedaled frantically. It was true. He had no interest in ordinary restaurants anymore. No one made sautéed vegetables as good as hers. "Then let's go buy groceries," she said, her smile returning as if by magic. She linked her arm through his, the tears completely forgotten. They went to the large supermarket near their apartment. It was still early, before the after-work rush, so the store was relatively empty. Lucas pushed the cart, and Lily followed obediently at his side, picking out vegetables for the next few days and replenishing their stock of cleaning supplies. She knew exactly what their home needed. As they passed an aisle with shelves full of small boxes, Lucas stopped. He reached for a shelf. Halfway there, his hand was caught in a vice-like grip. Can't you just buy them online like before? They have discreet shipping. Lily hissed, her face burning. The thought of the cashier scanning the item, of the other shoppers glancing at them. She would rather die. And from the way he was reaching, he wasn't planning on buying just one. It takes too long to order online. It's the same thing. But she didn't let go. Her cheeks puffed out, her grip stubborn. Are you going to let me get it or not? Lucas said, putting on a stern face. Lily shook her head vigorously. With a dramatic sigh, Lucas put the small, red box with 001 foot printed on it back on the shelf. Just as she was letting out a breath of relief, he said, Fine, we won't use one. We're married now, after all. She immediately surrendered, grabbing the red box and tossing it into the cart. When she saw him still staring at her, expressionless, she dutifully grabbed several more. Just then, Mrs. Gable walked by. She saw the contents of their cart, gave Lily a knowing, mischievous smile, and with a quick hello, continued on her way. On the first day of her marriage, Lily Thompson wanted to restart her life. Later that night, Lucas stood on the balcony with Dottie for a few minutes, then quickly retreated inside, sliding the glass door shut against the encroaching chill. It's getting cold, he said, shivering. When did summer end? It's been autumn for a while now, Lily said with a small smile, her head bent over her drawing. While she was busy being the breadwinner, Lucas was planning their wedding. The trip to the balcony had just been a change of scenery for his thoughts. Can you give me a rough date? I need to start planning, he asked, sitting back on the sofa and looking at the spreadsheet he'd made. A date for what? The wedding. Any time after the new year is fine. I'm okay with whatever. Lucas hummed in thought, his eyes returning to the screen. Find a house, decorate, take wedding photos, book a wedding planner, go on a honeymoon. Her dream of going to the beach was still on the list. They could take the photos there. There was so much to do. His mouth twitched. Was getting married always this much of a hassle? The collapse of Montgomery Holdings, a company that had stood for years, seemed to happen overnight. Executives were arrested, assets were frozen, and many received summons for questioning while they were eating breakfast with no prior warning. Then came the sell-off. Partners cut ties, subsidiaries declared independence. It fell apart. Clearly, the number of people who wanted to see it burn was staggering. Lucas Carter, who had been targeted by the company for over 6 months, was one of them. That morning, he walked into the offices of the game studio under the Montgomery Holdings umbrella. It seemed everyone was already packing up. No one stopped him as he walked straight through to the main work area, where a group of employees was gathered. At the center stood a young man about his age. Lucas recognized him, Alex Grant. The only reason he remembered the name was because of Lily. He had met Alex on the day they officially became a couple, when they were picking out an office at the startup incubator. Lucas was surprised that he could still recall the thrill of their first real date with such clarity, and even more surprised that the memory had dragged this guy along with it. We're game developers. We stole data from our peers. This was bound to happen, Alex said, his face grim as he sank into his chair. It's not your fault, Alex. Mr. Montgomery made us do it. We didn't have a choice. One of his colleagues tried to console him. Alex shook his head. The fault was mine for choosing the wrong person to follow. A heavy silence fell over the group. Finally, a woman with glasses asked in a small voice, Is the studio really closing? I'm out of money, and we're not seeing the funds Montgomery Holdings owed us anytime soon. Alex said, his expression darkening. I went to Aura Capital this morning as soon as I heard the news. Veronica Vance wouldn't even see me. The woman's eyes reddened. But we've all been working together since before we even graduated. I don't want to leave. Her words seemed to strike a chord with everyone, and the mood grew even more somber. Bring your team over to me. Polaris Interactive will take you all. A clear, strong voice cut through the despair. As all eyes turned to him, Lucas sighed. These are probably the only 2 game studios on the market primarily staffed by young people. For a moment, he felt like he was looking at a mirror image of what Polaris could have become if they hadn't survived Montgomery's attacks. If he hadn't pulled off that series of unexpected maneuvers, he might have ended up in the same position. Alex clearly knew who he was. Seeing the shock on his face, Lucas just smiled. I'm working on a project with a $10 million development budget. Interested? You want me to come work for you? Not exactly. We'll split the development team in 2. You'll still be in charge of your people, Lucas said with a shrug. I was originally going to give the position to Lee Young, but if you can find a way to push him out, the job is yours. He left the words hanging in the air. If Alex could actually do it, he would keep his promise. But he would put Leo Jenkins in charge of the entire group, effectively swapping their positions. These people seemed close, which was both a strength and a weakness. Integrating them would require a delicate touch. So what do you say? Are you in? Seeing Alex's hesitation, Lucas addressed the rest of the team. I'll take your entire original team, as is. The only thing that changes for you is that your boss is me, not William Montgomery. I understand. Hearing Lee Young's name and understanding the clear implication in Lucas's offer, a chill went down Alex's spine. It felt as if Lucas had had this planned all along. He looked at the man his own age with a newfound sense of awe. Alex was, at most, 2 years older than Lucas, but while Lucas was already a rising star, Alex had seen his own startup dream crushed and was now facing the dissolution of his team. This time, he couldn't afford to follow the wrong person again. With nothing left to lose, Alex accepted. In fact, a part of him was even grateful. I'll take care of Lee Young, he said, his head bowed. I won't make you dirty your hands. Lucas smiled and shook his outstretched hand. I like working with smart people. In less than a month, Polaris Interactive had completely absorbed Nexus Games and, in doing so, secured the $5 million investment from Veronica Vance. To the outside world, absorbing a company of similar size in such a short time was unheard of, especially since all of Montgomery Holdings' other subsidiaries were still mired in acquisition talks. They didn't know that Lucas had been preparing for this for 6 months, with no guarantee of success. On the day the merger was finalized, Polaris immediately announced the development of Gate of Terminus, a 3D open-world anime-style mobile game. The publicly stated initial development budget was $8 million. A tremor of unease went through the industry leaders. Polaris, a company they had never taken seriously, had become a major competitor overnight. Aside from the true giants of the industry, very few companies could commit that kind of capital to a new project, and Polaris had done it all in secret. The company that had once been as porous as a sieve was now a black box. Information was scarce. Everyone realized that Polaris Interactive was a dragon in the making. But by then, it was too late to stop it. The first snow came late to Seattle that year. It was early January when the fat, feathery flakes finally began to fall, lending a quiet solemnity to the already peaceful streets. It's snowing, Lily exclaimed, her head tilted back. She turned and adjusted the collar of Lucas's coat to keep the cold wind from seeping in. In her light green puffer jacket, she looked like an adorable, clumsy penguin. During the warmer months, she would sometimes dress to match his specific tastes, but in winter, she just rotated through her collection of puffer jackets. He wouldn't have it any other way. Lily had just started her winter break, and, with nothing to do at home, they had decided to go look at houses. Lucas had been too busy to do the searching himself, so his mother had been scouting locations for them, shortlisting a few for them to see in person. Emily had suggested both new constructions and existing homes. But without saying a word, they had both silently ignored the listings for buildings that were still under construction. When Lucas asked her about it, she just said that buying a finished house felt more secure, her face turning red as she refused to admit she was just impatient to get married. He knew. Everyone knew. This is the place, right? Lucas stopped and looked up at the elegantly designed high-rise building. Lily, not trusting her own memory, checked the notes on her phone. MHM, this is it. All right, let's go take a look. The sooner we pick one, the sooner I can make you my wife for real.